Welcome back, everybody. Thank you for sticking around. We, I know it's been a little while since I've uploaded, and you guys might be waiting for the next part of our allied race, analysis of the High Mountain Tauren, the Nightborne Elves, and the Valiant Lightforged Draenei, but, we're still kind of new to this. I'm still kind of new to this, and I, forgot the importance of making sure the audio is actually going through the entire way, so we lost significant portions of our Nightborne section and our Lightforged Draenei section, so decided to just scrap it entirely, get a new cast of characters, and we're gonna give it another shot and see if we can get it right this time. So, I'm your host Dayon. I've gathered together a cast of crazy characters and stupendous stand-ins to help me finish this off and hopefully finish it off right. So, returning back to the discussion about the race that we brought her in for is Lithiania. How you doing?
I'm alright.
Because I would be remiss not to ask Kysderal if he wanted to come back and join us for this one. How are you doing, Kysderal?
I'm good. How are you?
Pretty good. I feel really fucking guilty that I asked you out to come out and I completely eliminated your section. I feel like I totally rewarded your evening with us. So, thank you for the second chance.
Mistakes happen.
Yep.
You can just buy him a pizza.
There's a couple other things we're not going to get into that probably warranted another recording anyway, but I regret to say that both Qualia and Weedle are not joining us tonight. Weedle in particular is under the weather, and I'm not sure where Qualia is, but I'm sure he's got a very good reason for not being available. After all, I can't really ask him. I can't really ask everybody to come out more often than we really kind of intend to, but I do have some other people who want to join us and talk to us about the Nightborne Elves and the Lightforged Draenei, so joining me now is another good friend of mine, the Orcish warrior Goremash. How are you doing,
Yo,
bud?
I'm doing good.
Well, thank you very much for taking the time to join us. You've got what I call a voice for radio, so
I certainly appreciate that.
And who else have we got today? We've also our other main panelist.
You also have me.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Another guest panelist is another Orcish warrior named Oasna.
Oh my god. Fuck you.
Doing his best impression of Yoda. No. In all seriousness, his name is Oasna, and he was actually somebody that we were talking about doing a podcast with from the get-go, but now he's finally got some time to hang out with us, and I'm really excited about that.
I know. I'm elusive. I've been feeling a bit under the weather lately, so I've only just now been able to kind of like get ready for stuff like this and get back out and actually be social again.
Well, while you have the gumption to be social, I'm happy to socialize with you. Now, our big, lovable Tauren beefcake meat wall is here also. Nakula, how are you doing, Nakula?
I'm fine. Not a lot to report in on, which means no news is good news.
I hear ya. Personally, I'm on my first day of spring break. I'm so happy. So relieved. It feels so good not to have to do anything for a while, doesn't it?
Oh yeah.
No, because I still have to do stuff.
Oh well, you might.
Oh.
Yeah, in a grown-up world, Dan, we have to work for everything. We don't get spring breaks.
I still have to work.
What's a spring break?
I still have to work. I just don't have to worry about projects and deadlines and assignments and professors and classmates.
You just got about worrying, not being a loser.
Yeah.
Loser.
Not being
That is a
fucking square.
Wow, you guys.
Not out fucking jacks and drinking vodka and tequila.
Cutting words, my guys. Cutting words, my dudes. Anywho, we're going to talk about the Nightborne. We're going to do it right this time, aren't we?
Yeah, someone's not gonna fall asleep.
Hey, we're not going to talk about that.
Well,
Anywho.
wrecked.
Well, just like we talked about the High Mountain, we're going to go into their lore, their racials, the scenario that introduces them and makes them unlockable for players to play as them. And then we're just going to kind of recklessly speculate about where they are going to bring World of Warcraft's lore and what sort of things what kind of things are in store for the Nightborne. Those of you who are paying attention to the alpha, there's a couple neat little tidbits there, particularly for the first Arcanist. So without further ado, let's get into the Nightborne. Lithiania, who are the Nightborne?
The Nightborne are a group of former Highborn who took a magical item, the Eye of Amanthul, and they created the large bubble and their Nightwell to hide themselves from the Legion and the sundering that Queen Azshara was bringing onto the world.
Now, refresh us for those who aren't as intimately familiar with the Elves. What was the motivation for hiding away, rather than join Malfurion and the others to overthrow Tyrande? They're
You mean Azshara?
I do mean Azshara. Oh my god! Although there's a lot. To be fair, there's probably a lot of people right now who want to overthrow Tyrande, though. Let's be honest.
She's kind of a bitch.
It might be. Is how you pronounce her name.
So
Tyrande.
Anywho, in the first invasion of the Burning Legion, they opted instead to just hide rather than join Malfurion, Illidan, and Tyrande to overthrow Azshara and her ilk. Why did they choose to just hide?
It was something just a lot safer for them instead of losing lots of their own.
City elves, so they didn't want to get their hands dirty with blood.
They
did
didn't
a
want to
bubble
fucking
hearth.
die.
Gotcha.
I mean, and to be fair, I mean, if you think about it, your average person's probably not going to be like, hail to the night, slay demons, drink the blood of the enemy.
I mean, it's very true. And then not only that, but it's a lot easier to just protect yourselves. And probably these would have been Highborn who would have been exiled along with Dathramar anyway.
The point I think that's worth bringing up is that, this is before we learned about Suramar and the Nightborne. Our only sort of magically inclined Night Elf was the Highborn that were hanging out in Diremall before they finally came out and decided to socialize a little bit more. So what really sets the Nightborne apart from the Highborn other than their location and their circumstances? Like,
Well,
go ahead.
just like all elves, they are like they're very keen on magic in the sense it causes their transformation.
Mhm.
So these Nightborn, their ear tips went upward, they got thinner in their appearance, and of course their skin got darker.
And they
So-
drink wine to survive.
They drink the Nightwell.
Well, they kind of stole a drink out of the Nightwell called the Arc Wine, right?
hmm
Interesting.
All of their food and drink is from the Nightwell.
All their-
Basically French elves.
wow, all their food and drink too?
It's pretty on the
Yes.
dot.
I don't remember
Yeah.
hearing that.
Yeah, I believe when you're actually doing the Vineyard quest, it mentions that they ran out of their food supply, and so the only thing they had to sustain themselves with was the Nightwell.
So when let's and
Give you another shot at that.
How eloquent.
yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, our guild leader.
Yeah, and your erudite podcast host. Yeah, I had a question and then my brain switched to a different question. And I was trying to figure out when we talk about the Nightborne. Do you think it's more important to talk about among their diverse cast of characters, Grand Magistrix Elisande or First Arcanist Thelisra?
I think both are pretty important, especially to the storyline, considering with Elisande, her original intention of hiding at the time the Highborn away was to avoid the Burning Legion and to avoid Azshara, and now several thousand years later she's pretty much almost in the same position as Azshara, except she wasn't the one who willingly invited them in. She pretty much saw no point in fighting the Legion because she had searched through all the threads of time, trying to find what was going to be the best for her people.
If I might chime in for a second, I think it's kind of an unfair comparison to compare her to Azshara, because Azshara was already kind of delusional and power hungry, and she didn't.
Oh yeah, no, I admit that. That. Yeah.
So she brought the Legion. Don't forget, she brought the Legion to Azeroth, and well, they were already kind of drawn to it, but she allowed them in. So, she could sort with demons. She was already kind of, even though the Night Elves quote unquote revered her, I guess over the course of her life, she kind of got more and more vain and lofty in her position. So she kind of became disconnected from reality, and she basically turned to a humongous bitch.
Definitely in the beginning of Elisande, she was doing it to basically protect her people. Like, she thought the Legion was the best choice. It was just when she started starving her people and doing the things that she was doing, that's kind of where I end up losing the sympathy for Elisande.
She's a despotic figure. As simple as that. She has to keep the order, and as far as she's concerned, she's going to keep escalating to more extreme measures that we see throughout the Suramar quest line. Things are pretty calm actually, even before the Legion was kind of like forced into Suramar City with like patch 7.1, I think it is, or
Yeah.
Yeah, do you remember the promenade was all full of people just going about their business, normal people. There were no demons running around except for like maybe inside the Hall of Order and kind of down in the lower parts of the city. But, it was pretty calm. And then shit went to, everything went to hell in a handbasket once the forces started building outside our walls. It's if you've ever played Tropicano, it's a pretty good example of how good intentions, spiral out of control into, secret police.
I completely admit that. There are differences between Ajara. I just wish at some point, whether it had either been in game or maybe like another piece of media that Blizzard tends to do, where you could see more of the eternal struggle that she probably went through having to make that choice.
I definitely agree. I wish that they had. I'm such a huge fan of characters. Don't get me wrong. I love characters like Arthas and Deathwing that are just evil beyond your comprehension. But at the same time, Deathwing isn't very compelling as a character. I wish they had done more with Elisande, as in show us she's really, really trying to do this for the sake of her people instead of just being she's evil.
Yeah, the only hint of that you get was when you defeat her in the Nighthold, and the Echo of Elisande explains, that's when you find out, I had looked through the different threads of time, and I did not foresee this outcome.
Before we get any further into the characters and the cast of characters that the Nightborne can boast, let's still talk a little bit about more who they are and where they now sit in World of Warcraft and how we experienced them before. From the player's perspective, we don't know anything about them until Thalyssra sends a message asking for help. And through that adventure, the introduction experience to Suramar, we realize that Suramar is in the middle of an insurrection, kind of a coup. There's an uprising where dissenters against Elisande have been exiled from the city and from the Nighthold, and as a result are starting to undertake a startling transformation now that they've been cut off from their power source, which is not unlike the Blood Elves and the Withered. It's interesting to me how similar these two races actually are at the end of the day. It's like a group of Night Elves with Blood Elf ideals, almost.
Well, don't forget the Blood Elves are just highborn that mutated.
Yeah,
There's flesh and all that.
We can get into the whole what could have happened if they didn't. Mm-hmm. Go into their bubble later on, but
and so throughout the Suramar storyline, where we aid the rebellion, fight in the Nighthold, and then wrest control from Elisande, where does that leave the Night Elves for the rest of Legion? Or I'm sorry, the Nightborne for the rest of Legion for the most part. Do we see much of them afterwards? I don't really remember. For some,
unsurprisingly, no.
Yeah, they were. You really actually don't see their presence on Argus at all. The only tidbit.
To be fair, they did just have a revolution, so right. I imagine the place is a mess after the party. You got to clean up.
Certainly,
that's pretty fair.
We did see Silgrin on the Vindicar, so they had a representative.
I was going to mention that. So
I don't think they threw any forces into the Argus affair.
Certainly.
I can get behind that. That's pretty fair.
Here's what might be fun. To really get an idea of who they are, let's go ahead and play the Legion cinematic for Suramar that you see as a player. I'll go ahead and just drop it into this link here. Boom, boom. So if you guys are in the current room, go ahead and direct your attention to the Watch Together link, and we'll play ourselves a little video.
10.
I'll let you guys take a second to get in there. I'm actually going to full screen, so if somebody else could hit play on my go. Alright, is everyone who wants to be in here?
Yep.
Alright, somebody hit that play button for me. Goremash, hit play for me, buddy.
3, 2, 1, go.
1,000 years ago, my city was radiant. The jewel of the Night Elf Empire. Suramar. Our people prospered for centuries.
Oh, pause it for me real quick.
Until the Legion came.
It's not working.
By the power they offered.
Oh, I got it. So that's interesting to me, and we're gonna go ahead and just pause this intermittently when we have something to comment on. She indicates that Suramar was the crown jewel of the Night Elf Empire, but wasn't
Zinashari.
Zinashari? That's what it was still called. It was still called Zinashari. I thought it was only called Zinashari after they Nagified it.
I'm pretty sure it was called that even before the Sundering.
Yeah, it was called that before the Sundering. It was.
Okay.
It was after Ajara, basically. So it's a city named after Ajara.
Why was Suramar the crown jewel if it wasn't the palace of Zinashari?
If I recall correctly, they were the same city.
Oh.
Zinashari was like an elevated upper area, and that sank to the bottom of the ocean, and the rest of Suramar managed to bubble and hearth.
Oh.
Exactly. They were super close to when the Sundering was happening, and that's also one of the biggest reasons why they chose to do the bubble instead, because they felt they couldn't get away fast enough.
Question.
Did not know.
Before we restart this, I do have a quick question about Suramar. Is it ever actually confirmed that Suramar was on the Lake of Eternity, or no?
I think it is because the lake used to be the Well of Eternity.
Yes.
Right. Yeah, but I mean, like, we know Zinashari is also on the lake's shore, so are they like sister cities, or?
I hesitate saying that because looking at the map, Suramar's on the wrong side of the Earth.
Oh, wow.
On the wrong side of the Broken Isles.
Yeah, there's a lot of distance between.
If you face it out, it's not even facing the Well of Eternity.
Oh, well. Somebody hit that play button, Goremash.
Our queen betrayed us to the ruin of the world. As destruction drew ever closer, a desperate choice was made to conjure a powerful shield that would save our beloved city. It worked. Centuries passed without moonlight, without sunlight. To survive, we turned to the Nightwell, a font of great power in the city's heart. Slowly, it changed us, and ultimately drew the Legion once more to our gates. They offered us a trade. The Nightwell for our lives. As the Elders planned their surrender, some of us rebelled. We failed. Now the devils have taken Suramar. And by the curse of the Nightwell, I am damned to wither away as my city burns.
Dun, dun, dun.
So it's a pretty effective introduction to the situation with Suramar and how they are in the position that they're in. But what is it with magical cities and barriers, dude? Dalaran had a bubble around itself for a long time.
So did Dharmal, technically, if you read the lore.
Shit.
It's an easy ex machina.
Also, I guess this is another thing I've always wondered. How did the Moon Guards survive if they were outside the bubble?
That's a good question.
The shadow of the bubble protected them from the energy.
Fucking like snow shelter situation? Oh.
Well,
you know when it rains and that part in the back of your house doesn't get wet?
the Moon Guard Citadel was actually, it's pretty center stage for a lot of Legion conflict. You play as Illidan and you fight a lot of fights there. You meet Broxigar, you kill a bunch of stuff.
That's Blackheart Cold.
Oh yeah, you're right. Shit.
And Blackheart Cold's only sturdy because it's built from a mountain, so it's not like it's gonna collapse overnight.
You got me. You're right about that.
Yeah, that's right. Fucking out of here. The Moon Guard, I'm not exactly sure how they survived, although they clearly do have some understanding of how it works, because I guess it's supposed to be implied that that was actually the Moon Guard we saw in the cinematic, because they all have the same robes as the Moon Guard we see in game.
Maybe. I could see that. Okay, so now that we're more abreast of who the Nightborne are and why we're assisting them, I think we'd start talking about, the storyline of Suramar itself. Not only are we trying to aid them in the resurrection, but we're also trying to help them with their addiction. And I think a big point of Suramar is to explore the Arkandor, that magical tree that blended the energies of arcane and nature to create a fruit that would break them in their magical addiction. And we saw a lot about the Arkandor. We saw what happens when an Arkandor doesn't take. And that's what created the Falderai. I think that's what they're called. The spider elves.
Driders.
Right, basically, yeah.
Basically driders.
Couldn't have our drought stand-ins without the spiders. That's pretty dope, though.
Spider pussy.
Do you remember
God.
Do you happen to remember what specifically went wrong, Lithiania, with the first Arkandor that they attempted and fucked up?
Gosh, it's been a while since I've done that quest. I can't specifically remember, but
Trichomonia.
I do think it was a disease of the tree.
It was unstable, just like ours. It just naturally grew unstable without nature magic to balance it.
Right, and they didn't. I guess the outcasts that were in Shaldarai or whatever, or that fucking place, what the hell were the places they were at? There was a lot more people there, and they were kind of just like siphoning off it too much, and I guess that was just too much for a tree, and it just exploded. Which is actually a terrifying implication for later in the lore, because the Arkandor is is essentially like all the magic there is like radioactive, so it changes everything around it, including just it can create like actual arcane entities that pop out. It mutates the dryads that are there, and it changes the elves dramatically, as we see. So that's interesting. I wonder, like, later down the future, if the Arkandor is going to play I doubt it will play a larger role in the future, but its implications means that, it could possibly, if someone wants to, I don't know, use it on a giant tree, it could be a disastrous effect.
Well, let's
really
hope
cool
not, because we don't need any more corrupted trees.
No kidding. Well,
I don't know. It'd be pretty cool for Suramar and the area around it to become like a fantasy Chernobyl. That'd be pretty sweet.
Yeah, I know, right? Wouldn't that be fucking cool? Fucking magic fallout, which is, I guess, what happened in Outlands too. If you did the original Mana Bomb quest that Garrosh dropped on Theramore.
Ooh,
and
that's a cool idea.
Oh yeah.
And Stone Talon, that's what the Blood Elves were using. They used this focusing magic iris thing that had actual magical fallout that you went into, and it did damage to you over time if you stayed in it too long, and it was...
Yeah, well, it was such an intense arcane explosion that everything pretty much just got decimated, like, right then and there. And then when I read the book, Jaina, when she had found the body of the people that she liked, when she touched it, they just poofed into dust.
Yeah, it didn't just remove you from, like... The crazy thing is, too, I also remember how the Bronze Dragonfart were like, it didn't just remove them from existence, it removed them from time as well, which is... pretty crazy. You literally erase somebody from time with a bomb. That's definitely something. So their echoes,
intense.
Yeah, echoes just don't exist.
So the story of Suramar was very much about discovering who the Withered were, helping them plant a tree that would break them of their addiction, so that they could be a suitable fighting force to take on Elisande and her loyalists. And it culminated in a great, I call it the Great Elf War, because the Blood Elves got involved, the Night Elves and the High Elves got involved. It was just elves versus elves versus elves. World of Elfcraft. Basically.
Elves on elf violence.
Yeah.
For the first time since the War of the Ancients, all the elves fought on the same side.
That's true.
Yeah.
We even had the Nightborne.
Honestly, I don't have too much of a problem with like the elf lore, just because it's so cool, and the fact that we've had nothing but orc lore.
Oh god, I know.
Pandaria.
They were pretty much just like, oh, you're tired of orcs? Well, here's some elf dick for you guys to choke up.
7 different types of elves.
Where's the lie?
Cram it down our throat.
I didn't mind the elves.
I mind, but...
So, now that Elisande has been deposed, and First Arcanist Thalisra has seized leadership of the Nightborne, we didn't see a whole lot of them in 7.2 or 7.3, but we now know they are joining the Horde. And when you guys heard that the Nightborne were joining the Horde? Before I ask you that, there was a lot of clamor for the Nightborne and the High Mountain Tauren be playable, and then when the Lightforged Draenei were released to 7.3 and their assets had been data mined, there was a lot of clamor about them being playable. Did any of you, and be honest with me here, did any of you predict that the Nightborne would be a playable race?
Me, I did.
I did not. I thought that they were just going to be another race that we interacted with and then immediately forgot about come next expansion.
But see, you also have to look at the fact of the reason why I predicted it was just that the interaction that Silgrin and Leodrin had down in the Vindicar, that pretty much sold the idea to me that they were going to be a part of the Horde and more than likely a playable race. So
that did give me suspicions because you had similar things like that in the previous times things were announced, like when the Tauren were going to be paladins.
Looking back on it now, with all the detail they put into Suramar, it makes sense that they intended for the Nightborne to stick around for longer in the story that we encountered them in, because it would just seem like a waste otherwise.
You think so?
And yet,
oh yeah,
maybe. And yet, as a playable Nightborne, you don't exactly have unfettered access to the city. I think a 110 Nightborne could still go to Suramar and still encounter a lot of hostile characters there, right?
Well, you can be any level, and you just, if you're a low level and you try to go outside of the friendly area, you'll get teleported back.
Oh, damn.
Wait, are you talking about when you spawn as a Nightborne Lobby?
Oh, even as a Lobby, if you keep your Hearthstone there, you can explore the friendly parts of Suramar.
Okay, the reason I asked that is because I wandered out and got immediately killed by an elite.
Really? I got teleported back.
I actually have to disagree with Dan, because I don't think Blizzard had any intention, at least from the start of Legion, to include allied races, but their philosophy has changed a lot over the last year and a half. Blizzard has kind of gone in the kind of 180, which I'm appreciative to a degree.
If you're not aware of the reasoning behind that, it's because they're switching teams. Like
I know.
Yeah,
the old team came back and are like, "What the fuck have you done?" I wish I could make that up. I'm not making that. Like all the original old team. I mean, nothing against fucking Metzen, but I'm really glad Ian took over as a fucking lead kind of PA. What's the word? What's it called? Kind of. He's more like the face now, along with Sam. And Sam is, as far as I'm concerned, is the original. Like he's like the big go-to artist for Warcraft, and I'm kind of glad that he's kind of on board with a lot of this stuff.
I'm pretty sure Sam is more involved with Heroes of the Storm recently, but I'm sure he's floating around.
Yeah, but he's
just
still in the Q&As
too. I bet that Metzen leaving was the reason why they didn't kill Thrall in the.
Oh yeah, no, we all know that. Yeah, same reason why Malfurion's also alive too, probably.
Fuck Malfurion.
Not for much longer.
Now we can talk about all these other characters that we don't like, but let's talk about the Nightborne characters and which of those we like, which of those we don't. So the sort of catalyst to all this is Grand Magistrix Elisande. What do we know about Elisande other than the fact that during the first war against the Burning Legion, she opted to cloak Suramar into a magical barrier that would protect it. Ultimately, fat lot of good that did. After 10,000 years, they just came back and were knocking on her door all over again. What do we know about Elisande before the second invasion of the Burning Legion, if anything?
Not much.
Yeah, there's really not much on her, which is kind of sad.
I remember she was a particular favorite of Ashara. That's why Ashara took their betrayal so... maybe she didn't. Maybe I'm mixing her up with a different elf. But
no, you're thinking of Ferondis.
She was... maybe so. But I definitely know that she was a favorite of Ashara's. I don't know if one of her pupils, so maybe they all would have been. And then she was the lead of... She was the head of, I want to say, like their secret artifact division. I don't remember their exact Night Elfie name, but basically the group that would become the Nightborne safeguarded all the ancient artifacts and relics that the Night Elves found while their empire was expanding.
Yes.
That's why she had the Eye of Amun-Thul when she
Such an
decided it was
easy
time to
access
go
to
to
her.
So
Yeah.
the Moon Guard then. Literally the Moon Guard.
That's, I guess, kind of, but more of the highborny version of it.
I mean, the Moon Guard are a little bit separate.
Mage Moon
because,
Guard.
to be honest, I don't know too much about Night Elf history. I haven't read
The Moon Guard
War
are
Games in
mages.
so long time.
The mages
Right,
are Moon
but
Guard.
I don't think they're the same.
Yeah,
I don't think they're the same group.
they're not quite the same group because you have to remember a lot of just because you're a mage didn't necessarily mean you were a highborn.
Yeah.
And so Elisande and her team were highborn.
So, Elisande ruled as leader of the Nightborne for 10,000 years, and then the Legion came and knocked on her door and said that, let's offer a trade. Why did Elisande decide to take this offer?
No one knows.
We went over it before
It's a
with the
complete shift
Nightwell.
in her character.
Well,
Yeah.
think of it this way: it's if she's looking through whatever these fucking strands of time are, and I hate the fact that those are a thing,
Right.
and sees no viable solution, isn't it better to fall in rather than just get exterminated? But at the
Yeah.
same time, who are you to make that choice?
Well, someone has to
kinda-
make the call.
Well, it kind
she
of
is the
goes
leader,
with the whole
so.
aspect of the future is not written in stone, it's written in pencil.
That's kind of the entire point of Legion. They're like, oh, the bonds of fate. You know, when you talk to Medivh, he's like, oh, you gotta break the bonds of fate. And you fucking go to Argus,
That
and
annoys me
Ilden's
so
like,
much.
fatal. Literally the entire theme of Legion is like, oh, don't just accept your fate like this.
That annoys me so much.
One thing about Elisande that I think sets her apart from other World of Warcraft characters is that she's a pretty big deal. She's a main villain. She's the main antagonist for much of the Suramar campaign. But she is a pretty original character overall. She didn't really have any origin inside of the Warcraft of the RTS at all. Deathwing, the Lich King, Gul'dan, they all came from Warcraft 3 or earlier. It's very
which
even Illidan too. The first notable character that I can think of who was propped up and developed outside and completely unique to the property of World of Warcraft was the Thunder King, who I think shares a lot of parallels with Elisande.
What about
Nah.
Yasiraj?
Who?
Yasiraj, old god.
Yeah, but we don't really interact with him directly.
No,
Were the old
but
gods in the previous
he's an
game
important
in
character.
general?
Yeah, they're not as
Are they really?
heavy as they are. Well, yeah, I mean, like in Warcraft 3, in the Frozen Throne, you fight like one of the old gods' minions as Arthas and Nubarak in.
I have no memory of
Azul.
this.
Yeah, you go through Azul Narub, you go through the deepest reaches, and you have to fight a mindless, faceless one. It's huge. Like we're talking about like the size of Cthulhu essentially, and Arthas and Anub destroy it, and that's kind of the first time that Arthas is kind of like, huh. These old gods they're a dangerous competition, but they can kind of be useful with their blood. And I guess that's kind of where you got the idea of Serenite and all that bullshit.
Shit, I completely forgot. I must have missed it.
Yeah, the Nerubians are kind of like, in my opinion, they're the main reason why the Scourge is as powerful as they were, because they had such intricate knowledge of power and artifacts and just like how the old gods worked, that they had intricate knowledge how to fight them. So, of course, that's the reason why Serenite was so used heavily and their design was so heavily influenced, because it also looked kind of cool. But,
Taking us back on track, I still think that there's a lot of parallels and overlap between the Thunder King and Elisande, both as rulers of their people, as tyrannical overlords. The Mogu were once subject to a rebellion by the Pandaren, but they're both raid bosses that are propped up and who have a lot of lore and background and context to supply throughout your adventures in their respective games to sort of give you an idea of who they are. So when it comes to the Thunder King and Elisande, which was the most effectively built out character? Which character do you feel was most prominently? Which of the two characters between the Thunder King and Elisande do you think effectively were developed and fleshed out in a way that made you invested in their defeat and downfall?
I honestly probably think the Thunder King, just because you you interact with, you see more of his presence in the Isle of Thunder than Elisand's presence in Suramar. Like, you really didn't get the full on of her presence until towards the end of the storyline.
Don't forget the questing too in Pandoria, because the entire quest through all the way from the Jade Forest is implied that the Mogu are like mobilizing and getting slaves, and they're organizing again, and then you get to Kunlai and you have to go through his tomb, and then you go down to Zuchin village and you have to stop the Zandalari from resurrecting him, but they do it anyways. And that was a really interesting foreshadowing. And this was all like 6 months before Thunder Isle came out. So
this also might be a bit contradictory to what I just said about Alisand, about what made her interesting was the fact that she was someone trying to do the right thing. But maybe it's just because I'm a huge, gigantic fucking history nerd. But the fact that the Thunder King was a Genghis Khan type conqueror, a kind of like leader that actually did exist, let me invest a little bit more in like him as a character and what he was about. So I thought he was very interesting by the time we reached him.
Well, I guess here's the most important.
That clash of culture.
Go ahead, Kaz.
I would also have to agree with the general consensus, because while Elisand pre-existed in the lore, like I said, she was involved in the War of the Ancients. So we knew who she was before Legion even came out. She might have been a minor character, but anyone could have said, "Hey, remember Elisand?" And people were like, "Oh, sure, yeah." But the Thunder King was new in Mists. However, he was really well laid out during the leveling zones and then his own patch, and then detailed more in the Chronicle. He's just more developed, in my opinion.
Well, yeah, you also have to look at the fact, too, not everyone probably has read the first Chronicles book. So if they're just walking into this game fresh-faced, no idea what Chronicles is, the Thunder King definitely has a lot more behind him than Elisand does.
Right. Well, I'd say anyone who's just now starting the game now is probably not going to be spending enough time in Mists of Pandaria content to really get a sense of who the Thunder King is, or really a drive to even go to the Throne of Thunder to defeat him. But I guess here's the most important question when it comes to Elisand. Did you guys feel invested in her as a character? Did you feel the weight of her villainy? Did you feel as if she was an effective character, and were you invested in her defeat?
Yes.
For as little as we got of her, it was still very well laid out. That's something.
Yeah, what little we did get from her was very powerful. We saw her the oppression all over Suramar. And
I'm actually go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I'm actually going to disagree. It might be a unique stance just because I only played Legion for a brief while before I quit because I got fucking sick of dailies. But I mean, that's the whole fucking expansion, but that's another discussion. But I thought that there wasn't enough. There wasn't enough for me. By the time I had Suramar was easily my favorite part of the entire expansion, and I got very invested in the city. But by the time I actually reached her, I'd kind of forgotten that she had exists. And I thought that she, like, for what little buildup she had a pretty disappointing end, especially with, like, I looked through the strands of time and I didn't see an option, and that's just a fucking stupid cop-out, I think.
So you're to you, that justification for why she so vehemently sided with the Legion doesn't really sell for you?
It doesn't. First of all, I hate the whole time you want. It gives me more questions than answers. Like, how does this shit work? Why didn't it work? Why can't she just be of the opinion that, like, there's nothing wrong with thinking there's no way we can stand up to the burning fucking Legion. Why can't she just be of the opinion that it's more worth it to stand with them than to turn against them?
Would have been interesting. Oh, sorry.
No, you go ahead. I'm gonna go run to the rest of you. You go ahead.
Oh, I thought it was gonna be more interesting if, like, she was watching from her tower to see what the mortal races were gonna do, and she saw us get slaughtered, and that would have been part of it. And she's like, "Yeah, this isn't gonna work."
That would have been amazing.
That would have been pretty cool. Yeah. She's like watching us, like, "Oh my god, are they actually gonna do it?" And we all get our asses kicked, and she's like, "Well, shit," and she just like decides to give up right then.
Way more compelling for her character, I think, and given the insurgents a lot better of a reason to escape, because if she has access to some sort of thing that lets her see all strands of time, then who the fuck do you think you're fooling by trying to rebel against that?
power,
yet we
I
do
guess.
it anyway,
It
'cause
it
fuck
goes
you, I
with
guess.
the whole. Well, it goes with the whole there has to like when you see Larissa in the comic, she's like, no, there's another way. You might not see it, but there's another way. Like that was part of the comic that you see between Elisande and Larissa.
You know what surprised me about Elisande? She never
What?
that she was killed. Figure that even if she
Yeah.
how come she didn't turn tide at the very end there? I mean, I'm surprised that she was committed to dying.
I mean, yeah, I actually thought about that same thing too when I was fighting her in the raid. I was like, okay, so she has the ability to kind of rewind time and like survive this. I thought for sure she was like not going to die because I was reading her abilities in the Jundin journal. And I was like, oh, so she can rewind time. That's kind of cool. So that means she may not die. And then, of course, she dies. I'm like, okay.
For me, it's odd that she obviously... There's a point before she dies where she is aware that she was wrong. She couldn't have had that moment of awareness before we killed her. Like, we couldn't have saved her afterwards. If we could...
That's why I was
the Nightwell is kind of alive.
Oh, true.
Okay,
Yeah,
think about it like this.
Why I was
The
hoping.
Nightwell's alive, so maybe it was using her as kind of like as a way to kind of preserve itself.
Maybe.
I would buy that if they gave me any reason to believe that.
Now, what were you
It
saying?
is-
What were you saying, Kysderal?
Oh, that's what I was hoping for when we got to her. I thought we were gonna like snap her out of it. Maybe she's
True.
just being stupid, or she's having a brain fart or something.
Maybe she was being mind controlled.
Yeah, or so maybe Dayon has some leverage against her, and we're gonna free her of it. Whatever.
At the same
But it's
time,
like, no, I'm just gonna die, and my bad. I didn't look deep enough to know that you guys were gonna win.
yeah, maybe. And there's also she did commit a few atrocities under the efforts to quash the rebellion. So if she wasn't being mind controlled and being mind puppeted by Gul'dan, then I don't know if there's really any coming back from that. Like we were all
Yeah.
kind of super critical against Goremash Hellscream getting this apparent amnesty for even though he led the Iron Horde for like 5 years in their timeline.
Yeah, because you have to realize she did starve a lot of people that like left them out to basically become withered, and that's not okay.
Yeah,
But wouldn't it have been? Go ahead.
Doesn't seem there's any much coming back from that. What were you gonna say?
I agree with you that for what she did, she deserved to die. But wouldn't it have been significantly more compelling if we did not kill her in a raid? She served her justice, or even like when we defeat the raid, she was like, "Oh shit, there was another way, and I starved my people for no reason. I'm gonna go kill myself now."
Oh, so she made a decision to off herself as her own retribution.
Either that, or like she submits to a court of some kind. I feel like that would have been a lot more compelling towards her character. The fact that she could come back later and maybe redeem herself.
Well, considering how the last trial worked out, I don't think they're gonna have a trial anytime soon.
I feel like ultimately it's just a retreading of the Hellscream thing. Anywho, stick a fork in her. She's done. She's dead. Her legacy lives on, and now they are being led by what's her face?
The first Arcanist, Dalrissa.
Is it Arcanist or Arcanist?
I say Arcanist.
I think it's a tomato thing.
Yeah.
It's World of Warcraft. Who cares? Unless you say Shaman. If you say Shaman, fuck you.
Shaman. You're
a degenerate. I know he says Shaman, and it makes me so fucking angry.
So Thalysra, first Arcanist, she is the one who reaches out to somebody to get some help to Suramar, and if she wasn't successful in doing that, the whole thing would have been toast.
Yep.
Is she the one who architected the entire rebellion, or was it someone else?
Yeah, it was her. I'm pretty sure, wasn't it her?
There was others, like Veltois and others.
I mean, but she was the head.
Yeah, she was the head of it. She was the first one, because she was a part of Elisande's council.
She was the Vol'jin.
Yeah. And
she was part of Elisande's council. You see it in the comic. And she was the only one to outspeak. And so then she went to attempt her coup d'etat, and then, was thwarted.
Then she was betrayed by this fuckboy, Advisor Melandris.
Mm-hmm.
The first blade of Elisande. So I guess their structure is they have first Arcanists and first blades, huh? That's pretty cool.
They must race all the time.
Yeah. And I wonder if they're going to maintain this structure now that they are leading themselves.
Well, what's interesting is that she is still First Arcanist Tharisra and not Grand Magistrix.
Interesting.
Well, because there's actually a point too when you see her talk with Liadrin, she was like, "We can still preserve our culture being in the Horde. They don't have to assimilate like they felt they would have if they joined the Alliance."
That's an interesting point, actually. I think that's, especially leading up to Battle for Azeroth, that's a sort of thing that I've never really thought about, is how homogenous the Alliance races are and how fiercely independent the Horde races are. I think it's an interesting difference.
Now, looking at the other...
Not all the races in the Alliance. I'm sorry, as an Alliance player, not all the races in the Alliance are homogenized. I think a lot of them are. Like,
just like
what's the difference between a human, dwarf, and a gnome? Nothing. They're just
basically.
Yeah, that's it. But like a night elf and a dragon knight add a uniqueness to the Alliance.
Now, looking at the list of notable Nightborne on the Wikipedia page, you notice that there's only 6 of them with the Horde symbol by their name, which seems to indicate there's only 6 that we really need to talk about if we're talking about the allied race, and that is First Arcanist Thalisra, Lilith Lunaster, Oculith, Valtois, Silgrin, and Victor. Pretty dope people, I think. I don't really know much about Victor and Silgrin, but I know about Oculith and Valtois. What was your favorite among those 3 between Thalisra, Oculith, and Valtois?
Oculith, hands down. I love them.
It's hard. It's so hard for me. I love all of them so much.
I like Thalisra the most, but Oculith has a fun personality.
Well, but Liv, why don't you tell us about tell us about a couple things that make them great characters from your perspective. What are the best things about First Arcanist Thalisra?
Jim Cummings voicing Oculith was great.
Well, I think why I have a hard time deciding which one I like so much is because they're all very different types of people. You know, you have Thalisra, who is, she's very, I guess, composed and pristine, and she just knows what she's doing. And then you have Oculith, where he kind of seems a little bit on the crazy side. He's willing to experiment and do all these sorts of things. And then you have Valtois, who's just kind of like this, I guess, bitch. She's very snooty, and I love that, especially when you see her and fucking Stellagosa, I think her name is, the blue dragon.
I really enjoyed their back and forth, the 2 of them together. That was a lot of fun to watch. It was nice to have those little humanizing moments to sort of get us interested in them as people.
Yeah.
May I also remind you that Jim Cummings voiced Winnie the Pooh, so Winnie the Pooh talking about murdering people Alex was pretty amazing. I love that. That was great. Oh, bother.
Something I found really compelling about Thalisra especially was that they did an excellent job of portraying what it was like to wither and how fucked up that is and how sort of trial it is.
Yeah, we didn't get to see a lot of that with Burning Crusade. We kind of hated them. They're like, oh, these scummy little assholes. They're like crack elves.
We are about to
There's also a difference between Withered and Wretched. Wretched was from the overindulgence of magic.
I think you're missing a syllable there. Anyway, Qualia just hit me up. I'm going to add Qualia to the call real quick.
Oh, wait, you're right, huh? The Wretched are...
Yeah, the Wretched,
Oh, I forgot. Elves can also zerg out on fucking magic.
Yeah, and there is that difference between them. Although it is still, some of them you look at them and they look a little sad. When you see them like begging for more, they're like, I need more, I can't help it, please don't kill me, So you kind of see that human side of the Wretched. But then you have the Withered, where they're just completely sad.
Qualia?
Depression.
Hey, Qualia, how you doing, bud?
He got his voice.
He's muted, but okay, he's gonna take a second. Okay, so I think the progression of decay between the Nightfallen and then the Withered gives a pretty interesting potential question for the Blood Elves. Do they have a stage between Blood Elf and Wretched, as we see them in game?
We have not seen it in game, but I would almost like to headcanon that there probably is.
I mean, the night elves are actually there is actually something like this that did happen with the Highborn in the Plague Lands. I don't know if it was because limitations because of art department or whatnot, but all those high elves that were in that lodge that's like on the very like just outside Quel'Thela's border.
Yeah. I know what you're talking
they
about.
all turned into wretched, but it says that in the short story when fucking Lothar goes to visit them, they're all kind of like shivering and they're malnourished, and you can see in their faces they're really gone. And like when he goes to actually see like I think it's Illyria, I'm not really sure.
No,
but
it wasn't Illyria. It was
her sister, one of the commanders.
No, it was a different.
Right, you know which one I'm talking about, though, right?
Qualithian, you're talking about the Qualithian Lodge, right?
Yeah,
Take a look
yeah.
at this. Director
that's
attention.
why I came back and saw that because I had missed all Cataclysm and all that. I came back during like Warlords of Draenor. I was like, oh, I'm gonna go check out the lodge. I haven't seen that in a while.
Nope, the lodge is all full of hostile, fucking wretched. So I assume it's because they all turned into them. Yeah.
Now take a look at the artwork I got pulled up on the screen. This is artwork of a wretched elf, and you can tell by just his posture alone that he is maybe a wretched, but he's not. He's not bestial. He's not berserk.
He's not
He doesn't have those little pustules on his skin and stuff.
Yeah, that's also true. And there's a couple more models that we can look at, like this one. This guy literally bleeding from his gaping open mouth, like a disgusting fiend.
I did not notice that detail, and that is really fucking cool.
That sound they make, we're like, whoa.
There's also this is
Fuck! I left the oven on.
Well, and if you also actually think about it too, when you do quests through Sunstrider Isle, most of the wretched cannot really communicate, but then you run into the very few who can. While the Nightfallen were able to communicate without an issue, but it looks like when they became completely withered, they were nothing.
Lose that.
Yeah.
Also, I think it's I forgot one little detail because I know someone's probably gonna fucking be like, "Well, that's not right." When Lothar went to go visit the elves at the lodge, they had begun to feel the, what would you call it, the touch of the Sunwell, I guess, or something like that. So the Sunwell does have some like very large AoE effect on elves. Yeah, it's not just like they do have to make a pilgrimage to it.
Qualithian Lodge is very, very close to the border of the Quel'Thalas anyways, so
So I doubt they turned into withered or something like that. But
they became wretched because the other dude found this magical artifact, and and so they're just kind of like,
magical artifact fucking shit up.
It seems like the Blood Elven wretched do not become nearly as debased and feral as the Nightborne withered.
Terrible things.
I guess it depends. It seems like on an individual basis, some of them can be. It just seems like the term wretched is more of a catch-all for the second and third stage that we saw with the Shal'Dorei.
Well, I think because we saw this kind of large-scale wretched going on with the Nightborne, where you had people that were able to control them and whatnot, and you could see them in mass force, which made them more of a thing to reckon with rather than the individual wandering, aimless, just kind of lost souls type.
Yeah.
Now, what do you guys think about whether or not? Okay, the withered, the withered are the ones who cannot come back from. It seems like they're completely mindless and they can't be cured the same way the Nightfallen can be cured. Because Oculus, Thalyssra, and Valtois were all Nightfallen and were given their fix, and they were cured when they ate the fruit of the Arcandor. For the wretched, can they come back from this, or are they permanently like this?
Well, there is something hinted that at least the elves that kind of drink the blood of demons, they turn into those horrifying monsters.
Yeah.
That we saw in the Throne of Kil'jaeden and the Sunwell. I guess if you drink enough fel, you can kind of mutate yourself to that point, but I don't know.
Well, even like just the Felborn you see there, they lost their addiction to magic, but then they gained a new type of addiction, which was more power. They became very thirsty for power.
Energy. My people are addicted to it. Something manifested after the Sunwell destruction.
Elves is actually listed as a wretched elf. He's
Yeah, he became one when he shoved that crystal through his chest.
Oh yeah,
which is so weird.
So he's an example of a wretched elf that has its sentience. So maybe the wretched elves just have a broader range of.
Well, they're all sentient. I mean,
So it's kind of like the way it works is they're become so dependent on the magic that when they're in withdrawal, they're just completely mindless. And it's kind of like when they get that little bit of magic, yeah, they'll become a little more themselves a little bit. So having that magical fell crystal shoved in his chest is probably giving enough magic to keep functioning.
Right. Tell me this artwork is just badass though. Let's take a second to appreciate this.
Super is.
So here's the important question. It's not so much how intelligent they can be. Clearly there's a range. Can they come back from this, and can they be cured? And would they need the Arcandor to do it?
Oh, he looks in a pretty bad way at that point.
I don't know. I doubt at that stage. Once the fell's in you, it's in you. That's about it. So.
Oh, then
I don't know about that. Like,
we've seen like holy magic do some crazy stuff, so maybe.
Yeah.
I know, but it's what with the fucking dread?
Throw him in the sun. Well,
that's an extreme though.
What
with, like,
almost
the
happened
Naru.
to Illidan too. So I'm pretty sure with enough holy magic, you can like purge that shit out of you.
I'm gonna go ahead. Go ahead, Gore.
Something to consider about like the difference between the wretched and the withered is that the withered kind of don't have a say in the matter. They just kind of, after they get disconnected from the Nightwell, they just kind of fall into disarray and definitely want to be cured. Where I think that the important difference between them and the wretched is that the wretched, I think to a degree, don't care as long as they get more magic. So it's a question of, do they really want to be cured if it means that they don't get more of what's driving them on?
There's that difference of they became Nightfallen because they are hungry, while the wretched were just like more. I can't stop.
Excess.
I'm a fucking binge eater.
Yeah, fucking crack elves, man. They're as simple as that.
Here's my prediction. The lore is not going to specify until it needs to, and as far as we can infer, the wretched cannot be cured unless Blizzard decides they need to demonstrate that for some reason. So it's a matter of it's not.
Well, I think it's more of they've been kind of written off as a lesser tier version of the new elves with the Nightborne. So it's basically just been rewritten. And a little bit, and much better. They delve way deeper into the whole culture of it. So I don't think they'll necessarily want to go back to it because they're gonna be like, well, didn't we do this already? Because we already did it already, and we already did it already.
See, now what would have been cool though, and this will kind of like touch on the Void Elves just real quick, is imagine if a lot of holy magic can cure someone. What about a lot of void magic? Void elves could have been wretched if Blizzard had wanted to go that route.
That would have been so fucking.
So that's what I'm curious. I don't know if this void kind of is this. I mean, is this never-ending whatever chasm of void? Whatever. I don't know how it all works compared to other magics, but if it's this self-sustaining type of energy type thing where they just keep pulling from the void and able to get more magic, yeah, maybe it is a strong enough sustenance to sustain basically a broken elf, if you want to call it that.
I think that would have been really cool if they could have tried to explore in that way, and then instead of what was done. But that's all I'm going to mention on that. I don't want to like dive into that rabbit hole.
I think it's really interesting. It's more speculative stuff, and they leave it open, which leaves more room to kind of explore these ideas.
Right.
Which I don't think is.
Which could have used a group of.
I think there's value to adding our own kind of trying to fill in the gaps where things could be.
Yeah, I mean, it would have been a completely new group of elves in a sense of we already knew about these elves from a previous point in time of our history. It would have just made a lot more sense. But
as far as I'm concerned,
there's that too,
a ticking time bomb.
And I agree with you, Qualia. If it's good that there are places where the players can sort of insert their own lore. As a matter of fact, if you want to hear more about that, audience, you can check out episode 3, Living in the Lore.
Your own shit.
Plug ourselves in our own podcast.
Well, while we're at it, come check out my YouTube channel, Ghost in the.
Anyway, to just put a nice little bow on this, as far
Are we
as
recording right now?
Yeah,
I
we're
don't even
recording.
know.
Yeah, we're
okay,
recording.
yeah.
To put a nice little bow on the whole question of can the wretched come back, it's not going to be defined until Blizzard comes up with a reason to define it. And And what for whatever reason they decided to define it, like you said, Qualia, it's kind of retreading old ground, but it's not really about why they do it, huh? It's about whether or not they ever decide to. So I think this is going to be something that's kind of left unanswered and left to player speculation and ultimately player decision about whether or not the wretched can be cured to full-fledged elves. I mean, certainly if they're given a piece of the Arkandor, sure, why not? I don't think there's anything to say that couldn't happen, right?
Well, that's the thing. We haven't seen complete withered get reversed from the Arkandor yet either.
That's true. It's up in the air, and I kind of like that stuff when it's not all laid out. But so, okay, we mentioned Oculus and Voltois, and we didn't really talk about Silgrin or Lunester, or however you say her name.
Lunestray.
Lunestray. Thank you. My mistake. I wasn't sure. You know, sometimes the RE can make an sound. Lunestray. Who else?
Silgrin.
Oh, it says Lilith Lunestray was the one who led the opposition within Suramar City. Silgrin. Let's talk about Silgrin for a little bit because he's a pretty important dude.
Interesting character.
What was Silgrin's role in the insurgency? I don't remember him as well. So
you don't really? He's one of the more memorable characters, I think.
I remember that he was.
I don't remember him at all.
I don't remember how he got his foot in. So, Liv, why don't you tell us a little bit about Silgrin?
Silgrin is basically one of the first Nightborne that you meet that kind of help you get into the whole going on. He's the one who points you the way to Lilith.
Yeah.
Oh shit! Yeah. I remember him. Yeah,
he's one of the senior captains of the Duskwatch. So
he's the original Dragon Knuckles.
He's one of the guys working with what's her face in the city.
Yeah, it was Lilith, and he also works with our Luel, the
another captain of the Duskwatch.
Yes.
Yeah, and this is after Elisan has been sending people off to Felsel and enslaving them. So that's actually a really cool part, that the Duskwatch itself isn't all corrupt.
Okay, let's do an honorable mention, because this is the guy that I remember the most of the entire insurgency with Vanthyr. Vanthyr was my boy. I liked him
that
a lot.
guy. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, he was cool.
First of all, look at him rocking that bald head. He is the Nightborne Mr. Clean.
For those of you who are not aware, Dayon has always drawn his own character with a bald head.
Yeah.
That's true.
So he has a little bit of a bias in this.
Kratos
looking fucker.
Spirits. But
Oculus also has no hair, so
that's true. Oculus, the fucking Chrome Dome buddies. Now he operated the Waning Crescent, and he was basically the one in charge of sneaking Arkwine to people, right?
yes.
Yeah, that's why I liked him so much, because I thought that was really heroic for him. You know, something simple. He's not a warrior, but he has control over who gets Arkwine, and so he's using it to sort of deal under the table. I really liked Vanthyr. I hope we see more of him.
He's an everyday hero. That's why you like him.
Didn't he?
I don't think we'll see more of him.
Oh wait, did he die?
Yeah.
No. He almost did though. He was actually going to be withering.
Oh yeah, he's the one that was put in the cage and we got him out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, dope.
It's actually the whole Dusk
was
Oh, that's right.
the one that did get killed was the vineyard lady.
Yeah, I really liked her.
Made me
And I was
so
so sad.
upset.
It was also
I was so upsetting.
the rogue.
She was one of the best characters in the whole. She was the one that conveyed the most of what it was like to try and hold everything together while everything is falling apart.
I think,
Oh my God, her
just
death
having that
was-
voice acting adds so much to it.
Right?
Yeah, I'm so happy that Blizzard decided to give more voice. I noticed it in Miss Pandaria where more NPCs just had voice acting, and it really does grant a sense
It
of
puts you
levity.
there.
All right,
Oh yeah.
let's talk a little bit about. Okay, we're gonna put a pin in the Nightborne for just a second. Talk about another MMO that really drove home the idea. Oh, look at our fully voice acted. It's whatever.
What was that, Star Wars?
Yeah, Star Wars.
I haven't really played it. Well, I
played it.
did play a little bit, but I kind of got.
I played it a little bit, and I actually found the whole voice acted cutscene to be really tedious because it kind of kills your momentum to, in World of Warcraft. Once you get proficient at World of Warcraft, you're pretty good about knocking out quests pretty quickly, turn them in, and then going on to the next thing, and just sort of moving at a good clip, right? The way that Star Wars implemented voice acted cutscenes killed any momentum, and it was cool as a novelty. But there's several points throughout where I was like, can you stop talking and just get what I need to do? I mean, I just want to go back and I just want to keep questing. I want to skip all this stuff. And having the
so there's showing and telling.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can have the voice acting while you're telling it about everything going on, but like when we have the voice actors with this character specifically, you're going through the vineyard, she's describing how the stuff's like, okay, yeah, it sounds boring me describing it, but when you're walking around in Suramar City, seeing all this cool stuff for the first time, and it's just kind of explaining how all the production goes, what it's like living in the city.
Even the questing part where you're jumping on the fucking stuff, that was so much fun.
Yeah,
grapes and whatnot.
Here's why Margot's explanation of her the vineyard is way more effective than any of the voice acted cutscenes in Star Wars The Old Republic, is because your control over your own character is never taken away from you. You're never forced to sit still.
That's true. They don't pull you out to do it.
Yeah, in Myth of Pandaria... Go ahead, Gore. All right, I'll just say this real quick. In Myth of Pandaria is when I first started noticing voice acted NPCs through Lore Walker Cho. If you wanted to fuck off and tell Lore Walker Cho to eat it, you could just run away from the guy and you would eventually drown out his sound. But in Legion... Go ahead.
Unless it was the Malfurion quest in Legion, where you try to fly away from him, then you were ripped back and put onto his back.
Legion had the whole toast system. You know how they have like little dialogue boxes with like the bust of the character, and you can see the character's talking to you no matter where you are. I
remember that.
That part of the interface is called the toast. I don't know why they call it the toast. I just know that it's called that. But it harkens back to like Warcraft 3 when characters were given dialogue in the little box on the bottom of the screen. You could see like their headshot and then they were discussing. They brought that back in for Legion, and I think it's been super effective because even if you wander away from the NPC talking to you, the NPC is still giving you all this information while you're
like you can just close the little box.
Yeah, and if it's non-invasive, it doesn't stop you. You can go back to killing your mana worms and demons while the guy's talking to you, and you're like, oh wow, that's really dope. And then
again, unless that one particular instant with Malfurion, where you're forced to ride him.
That doesn't count, but still.
The most awkward moment in Warcraft.
And I think our closest to characters like Vanthyr and Margot, who suffered, and one of them even dies, shows that Blizzard's method of giving character stories by giving you the toast interface, the voice acting, and not taking control of your character away from you to sit through a cutscene. That's why I think it's so effective, and that's why I miss Margot, and I love Vanthyr, and I hope that we see more of Vanthyr.
Also, that Margot girl, she's basically Julia Child. I mean, she is. Like, I put a video.
On the berries.
Exactly. Look in the chat. It's the exact same way. She even talks like her.
That's something that I would like to pose. Is it like how let's just this like how much more compelling is it to be on a tour with this lady and doing sort of different things than it is to walk up into this recent patch, walk up to Orgrimmar and hear and see a cutscene about what the other characters did while you were gone. I'm way more compelled to be invested in that sort of thing when I'm an active participant in it.
Yeah.
Like here's an example, right? Every single cutscene in WoW does not include your character. And that's kind of boring to me.
There is the one in Warlords of Draenor on the train where you look down the hole and then jump off the train.
Also the ones in Moss.
Oh yeah. I forgot about
that was pretty dope.
Yeah,
and then they abandoned that immediately.
No. Moss Souls too. And also, what else? There's Moss Souls, Argus, and also
the Agrimar cutscene, but sucks.
Yeah.
Yeah, that kind of sounds like what?
No. No, and Taurus too. There's actually four cutscenes where your character's present.
There's a lot of cutscenes where our characters just sort of stood in there, but we're like the silent observer. We don't do anything. We're just there so the player can sort of be like, hey, look, you're here. You're experiencing this thing.
Oh, yeah. Our character doesn't really exist.
Yeah.
But at the same time, they do. So
back to the Nightborne boys. So, okay, everyone... okay, we're gonna... Shut the fuck up! How dare you!
I'm down.
Now, Jesus, every time I bring Goremash, I'm just gonna stay on my toes and be eloquent as fuck. Okay, we're gonna go ahead and move on to the class and ratios of the Nightborne because we've sort of talked their story to death. They were very interested in where they're gonna go, and we'll speculate about what their future holds for them after the fact. But before we do that, let's go through whoever we have in the conversation here, and I just want you to name your favorite Nightborne that actually is is on our side. So, with the exception of things like Thoramir or Star Augur Atreus and Patrol Captain Gerdo and the people that we have to kill along the way, among the ones who are part of the insurgency, who is your favorite? And I'll go start with Vanthyr. Vanthyr is my favorite Nightborne, and I hope we see more of him. Lithiania, who is your favorite Nightborne? Well, actually, I know that's a difficult one for you, but spit out the first one that comes to
I was
your
about to
mind.
say, you're basically asking me, do I want a donut or do I want a donut?
So you collectively like all the elves. That's fair.
Yes, I mean, come on. You should know me by now. I am the elf person. I love elves.
Goremash, who is your favorite Nightborne elf?
The Lystra by far, and the reason behind that is because I talked before about how they did a great job with portraying how much it sucked to be withering, and yet throughout all of that, she made, like, despite the fact that she looked like shit, she felt like shit, she still maintained her composure and was ready to lead her people, and I love that determination. And also, she's hot.
They guilted you into doing dailies. That's literally how the Nightborne works.
Hey man, you got that fixed? You got any more of that arc wine?
Yeah.
How about you, Kysderal? Which of the Nightborne was your favorite? And who do you hope to see more of?
It's definitely a toss-up between Oculus or Thalystra, but I definitely like Thrisso more. Not just because of her strength of will, but I really like her warmth towards the player character. Like, she fully recognizes that she is only alive today because of our intervention, and we have that has made us one of her closest friends.
That's a good point. That's a really good point. I think Thalystra manages to pull it off without pulling our character off. Yeah,
she even stands up for you when her compatriots are bad mouthing you.
Valtois, when Valtois like,
nude.
I can compare that to, like, how I felt towards Vol'jin, especially, like, after the Mists of Pandaria scenario, where he literally like mixes his blood with yours, and it goes, "We brothers in this now." My, like, however old I was, self was going.
Hold on. Hold on.
And for the rest of the time that we interacted with Vol'jin, he didn't treat us like Thrall or Garrosh did, where you were just some asshole did a lot of cool shit. He treated you like you were a friend, like you had been through a lot together.
You weren't just the champion of the Horde or the champion of the Alliance. You were her friend.
Yeah, that's cool. I like that.
Hold on, when did Vol'jin mix blood with you?
In the Mists of Pandaria scenario, where he gets quote-unquote assassinated.
Oh, yeah, that one. That's right, yeah. I like that one.
Now, Oasna, tell us your favorite Nightborne elf.
Well, I already said Oculus earlier, but, I mean, Thalystra is definitely, I mean, yeah, as our good friend here was saying, I'm sorry, was it Kale, right, or Kyle? How do I pronounce your name again? Sorry. Kayas. I'm sorry, I'm not very good with names. As Kayas mentioned, yes, she's very warm and very kind. I mean, even especially if you're doing the one thing I thought that was a really nice touch is when you're doing the whole like rep quest. You know, you get like a rep daily. You grind up to Exalted again with them or whatever, and you get like another chest. She's like, you're a friend of the Nightborne, and she like calls you all these things, and the last one she calls you his friend. And I was like, oh, that's nice. And but Oculus, I just like him because he's the man with the plan, and he's always optimistic. And
he's eccentric. I love that about him too.
Oh, he is so eccentric, and that's, like I said, that's the reason why I have such a hard time choosing. Because even with, like, I know no one's mentioned Valtois. Well,
I like Valtois. She's my second favorite.
I don't hate any of them. I love them all. I just love
there was not a character I did.
It's just really, because with Valtois, you get to see her. You start seeing her from like not really liking you, and then she's like, "Okay, I guess you're not that bad."
Yeah, that's the, okay. Qualia, what's your favorite Nightborne, real quick?
So I have a few that I like a lot, but I think the one that stuck out to me a lot was Runus. I don't know if you remember it.
That's fair point.
Oh shit, Runus is a good one.
Yeah,
that's a good one. I don't know if he counts though. I don't think he's ever part of the insurgency, but I'll give it to you.
No, he's not. I mean, he's borderline withered. He actually does end up turning withered by the end of the quest line. Spoilers, sorry, but yeah,
he's been out for years.
But yeah, I thought he was he didn't have like any major storyline stuff really compared to the other Nightborne guys, and
you know what?
He kind of goes around with you and the dragons and in the dragon pools and stuff. Eventually, he does he ends up dying when you try to come warn the dragons about the attack coming.
You know what? I think I've done a huge disservice because I said it was Thalithra who tells us about the Nightborne first. It's actually Runas who tells us about the Nightborne first.
He's the first Nightborne we really meet.
And
I like him a lot. That's actually a really, really good one. Thank you for bringing that up. I'd completely forgotten.
Yeah. So never forget Runas. He's in our.
There's one thing I hate about Runas. The one itty bitty tiny thing, and it actually is one thing I hate about a lot of different NPCs. I think you might know what I'm talking about, Liv.
Rolls eyes.
Okay. As somebody who hates the artifact storyline and hates being the artifact wielder, I hated every bit of ham-fisted forced dialogue that insisted on referencing your fucking weapon. When fucking Kane Sunfury goes like, "Oh, nice weapon you have there." When the demon lords go like, "You'll never beat us with that puny weapon." And then Runas did it too. Runas was like, "Oh, nice weapon you have there. It really hurts when you hit me with it." Like, no shit, Runas.
See, I thought that was funny as fuck. Like,
He had a lot of good comedy moments actually throughout his storyline.
That was funny.
He's like, "Oh, bunch of these meta wretched around here. Ooh, meta crystal."
No, he's also the voice of everyone's childhood. That's motherfucking Jim motherfucking Cumming. I love everything he does, and that's why I like Runas, even though I think that dialogue is sort of like, what the fuck?
I did not enjoy Jim Cumming as Javi, though.
Oh yeah. That's so unfitting.
He just sounded like a Swedish Laura Cho.
Yeah, I was just imagining Laura Walker Cho the entire time. I was like,
Not my favorite
his own voice.
But to go back to Runas real quick, I heard an interesting fan theory that because certain time passes between the zones, what if the subject that we find for Thursa to test on, I think his code name is like Theron or something like that.
Yeah, Theron. Yeah, they called him.
Was Runas, wandered into Suramar and then recaptured.
That's interesting.
Oh, that is an interesting fan theory.
Well, I guess, but Thurnis is like clearly okay. Like Runas says that a lot of his family is at the in Ashara at the ruins there. That fucking whatever that crazy asshole has,
Sakanana or something like that.
Yeah, it's like like there are a lot of Nightborne that are there just living off the excess mana that's like leaking out. He says he's going back to kill his family and loved ones. So I don't know about that. I think Thane was just sort of there, and plus Thane also has a kid and don't forget the memory thing that we have to go through, which is actually one of the better moments. He's got a daughter and a wife that, you know, were in the city at the time, and he had to be separated from them. So I don't know about that. He directly came from Somar, while Runas was kind of like already on the fringe as it was. So
missed opportunity.
Well, before we get into the Nightborne as a playable race, I want to highlight one last cool badass moment between. Actually, even though I said that Vanthyr is my favorite character, and Runas is definitely worth mentioning, I think the coolest moment that we saw in Nightborne was the monologue given to us by Elisande when she was when we were attacking her, and she locked, and like she had a comment for every other set of elf.
Oh God, yes. So
I wonder if we can find it, because that's really dope.
See.
Yeah,
you know what I wish? I wish that instead of going, "Man, that weapon you have there," they could reference at least what kind of weapon it is. Like, "Oh man, that sword really hurts," or "Man, that shield really blocks a lot of damage," instead of being like, "Man, that weapon, wink wink nudge nudge." Isn't that such
wink wink nudge nudge?
Well, so the issue with this, I don't know how many takes they take to record each line. You multiply that by how many classes and how many specs between that classes. So you're multiplying that by...
They pay by the word.
A lot.
Yeah.
If they get paid...
Each one of those lines, you have to just say it several times to get the right take for it. And then in every language after that.
And who, Qualia, I've dropped you a link to the Watch Together room that we're currently hanging out in. And I'm about to play the 7.1 cutscene where Elisande basically roasts everybody.
Also, you saved Khadgar by tackling him, which is pretty funny.
Yeah, it's pretty funny. That's
part of that
character.
Okay. Would somebody do the honors? Goremash, would you do the honors and hit that play button for me, please?
Sure.
Behold this motley throng in which the rebels put their faith. Kaldori, you disgrace a glorious past, hiding in trees and cloaking yourselves in false piety. You have grown as savage as the trolls that skulk about your forests.
Damn!
Queldora,
I just want to say her diss on the High Elves was like my favorite.
also willing to mingle with lesser races that dilute your blood.
Oh,
Damn!
Worthy of the name of High Elves. Sindora.
Where do I start?
I mean, she's right, so.
Save my people. Instead, you ally with misfits and monsters.
Damn!
Each of you has debased your proud lineage.
I'm gonna get that black guy who
Each
goes,
of you
damn!
has forgotten the ancient power that is our
token.
birthright. Let this failed rebellion be a lesson to any that would stand against the Shaldori.
Oh, there it is. See, that's what I'm talking about. It's just hilarious if you're like a gnome.
Replay on that? Hold on, I'm sorry.
Yeah, go for it.
No, seriously, that shit is hilarious if you're a gnome or a goblin, because you straight up just put cat on your back and just run with him.
what the?
I can protect us from the residual.
Shall we pause it? Do we need to watch the rest of this?
Go ahead.
We're
You can
good,
pause
go
it for
ahead.
me, please. So,
So,
Cathars are
I don't
great,
know if we got that. We might have discussed this on the previous take. We kind of established we had the bad audio version of this
Yeah.
yeah.
talk. I think someone asked, why do elves act so snooty, basically? And we're like, well, because elves are better than everyone, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, like,
And I really like that Elyson it kind of embodied that entire, elf master race thing with
Right.
that little monologue or dialogue there. It's just kind of the epitome of
Well, see,
elf
and
She's not just-
narcissism
she's
and
just not,
elitism.
she is such the quintessential elf elitism. She is elitist towards other groups of elves.
Well, see, and here's the
That's
thing.
great.
She has a legit thing, especially towards the High Elves. That's like such a legit thing. Like,
Because all the Windrunner sisters insist on jumping on human dick.
well, it's not. It's just the High Elves. I mean, they were the ones who were just kind of like, "Fuck you," because they thought they were better than the Blood Elves for not wanting to suck the life out of things. They're like, "Ugh."
Oh,
And
I just realized.
Well, I mean, that's
I just realized the whole Blood Elf versus High Elf argument. Even Elyson recognizes there's a difference. Fuck you, Ian. Papa Hatsy.
right? Fuck that.
Also, if I'm
You
not
think there's a
mistaken,
difference, but there's not.
if I'm not mistaken, wasn't that Jennifer Hale voicing Elyson?
Yeah, that's totally her. That's Jennifer
I
Hale.
forgot. That also might be explain part of the reason why I thought she was compelling.
Yeah, great fucking voice performances. I think all the Nightborne. Okay, two things real quick. I forgot to bring this up, but I was wondering whether or not the Nightborne believe in a loon, and evidently not. If they're gonna call out Tyrande for being cloaked in, false piety, and fucking comparing them to trolls. God damn.
I don't know if it's so much.
Elu's not really a faith. Like, she's kind of an established. Yeah, this is a real entity that has influence on the world. That it's not like the light, where it's kind of more mysterious and maybe probably even less so with the latest expansions.
It's not like they don't.
So it's not really a faith thing. It's just a part of their society.
Yeah.
They just don't care.
Evidently, if it even is an established faith, Elyson couldn't give 2 squirts of piss for it. She's just. Anyway, fuck. Parting thoughts about the Nightborne.
I think that's interesting too, because we do see a change from the Night Elves from the Warcraft 3 era Night Elves. Their version compared to the more recent Night Elves we see in Legion type era. Mm-hmm. Where they were definitely more vicious, more warlike, more savage in the Warcraft 3 era.
Yes.
And they kind of stepped back from that a bit in the more recent times.
But
Like,
a lot of Alliance players, that's one of the biggest complaints, is that the Night Elves seem domesticated.
Yeah, they are.
That's exactly the reason why I made
Well,
that
yeah, I got a house elf. I play one.
That's the reason why I had made that mention earlier of Night Out, like the whole assimilation into the Alliance rather than
when they fucking make characters like Elise Starseeker in Hearthstone, fucking
Hey, don't shit on Elise Starseeker.
I love
That's
Elise.
basically what I base my character off of.
I love
I know that.
I love the idea of Elise Starseeker, but she is emblematic of the idea of the domesticated night elf, though.
Oh my god! And
Not
this is the
exactly.
same.
I mean, yeah, she's a researcher, but she's also she's an explorer. You literally go out and
She's
adventure
got
stuff.
glasses.
So she can see better.
They say
So do you.
smart and savage at the same time.
So do you, Dayon, you fucking nerd.
Yeah,
You're
you're
right, but I don't. I don't come from a race that's meant to be Amazonian savages. Anywho.
Okay, I got 2 words for you. 2 words for you.
Uh-oh.
Or no, actually, I'm sorry. 3 words.
You want to recount that maybe?
7 words. 2.5.
7 words.
Spit it out.
I mean,
Today, Junior.
what the fuck is her name? That annoying ass druid from the druid order
Oh
hall.
my god.
Check out
Malfurion.
these claws.
Thistly.
Oh no.
Thistly Crow. Yeah.
I
fuck
loved her.
that bitch.
Okay, I know that we were just sort of like lauding voice acting. I liked Thistly so much more before she had a voice because I figured always in my head she sounded more like a punk rock girl than a valley girl, and I'm upset.
Oh my god, no, that's exactly it. You're talking about like 5 seconds ago, you're harping on the fucking researcher elf, and then you're like, oh, but then you love Mrs. fucking Bubblegum Cheery fucking.
No,
check out
I
these
don't
clouds.
like. I don't like her voice acting. Back when we first saw her in
It's his
Cataclysm,
fetish.
she was a. Back when we saw her in Cataclysm, she was a little bit more, renegade cop, don't play by the rules druid, and she was awesome, but she doesn't have a voice that represents it. Anywho, okay, everyone's got their favorite Nightborne, and here's a final parting thought, I think. There are races in this game whose introduction have been very polarizing, but I can't think of anybody who actively dislikes the Nightborne. I'm not actively planning on playing a Nightborne character, but I love being around them, and I'm glad that they're playable so that we can get more lore with them and more time with them. Who can
That's
think of
Yeah, they're just more thought out blood elves. Of course, that everyone's gonna like.
Yeah, they're Blood
Yeah,
Elves.
pretty
They're
much.
Blood Elves 2.0. This essentially Legion is the whole Blood Elf story, but better. That was the going through.
And they
my
made them blue,
final-
so they didn't steal our thunder.
Exactly.
Everyone's happy.
They're blood elves and night elf bodies, basically, with darker skin. But can anyone think of a blood elf that they did? Sorry, not a blood elf, a Nightborne that they did not like, and not because they were a villain. You kind of weren't supposed to like them.
Just poor character.
Yeah, poor.
I don't know.
A character.
I have to think about it.
Yeah, see, it makes you think.
Yeah.
The
can't
Nightborne,
think of
the
anything.
Nightborne are not a polarizing race. They were very well received, and I think that's a lot of reason why the Alliance was so upset they didn't join up with they didn't join up with them. Now, Liv, you were the one who predicted that they would that they'd be a playable race. Did you predict they would join the Horde? What direction did you see that going in?
So when Nightborne were first introduced, I was kind of like, maybe they might go to the Alliance, just because of the whole, like, them being the, like, offshoot of Night Elves, essentially. But then as I started going through the story, as I started seeing Tyrande interact with the Nightborne and how they treated the characters of the Nightborne, I was like, "Ugh." And then the Silgrim thing just pushed it further.
Right. So what exactly was it, do you think, that led to them joining the Horde? Because people have been contesting about this a lot.
Oh no!
Hotly.
If you follow the story, it leads up to it the whole
Yeah,
time.
Tyrande at the Nightwell was the turning point, I think.
Yeah, Tyrande is basically essentially a huge ass cunt.
Yeah.
I mean, okay, to be fair, I've said this before. I think she is.
I like how much of a cunt she is in this expansion.
I do.
It's entertaining.
She is
I'm
completely
laughing at how much of a
justified.
cunt she is.
Look, if Game of Thrones has proven anything, is that cunt characters can be popular and well written.
Oh yeah, like I like her.
Yeah.
I'm like, even though I'm like, man, she's such a cunt, but like I fucking can't stand Malfurion.
Oh,
And he's not
God.
completely dishonorable.
Randy, where are you? No!
Just real quick, Volshra, like that entire last
This is
half
a
of
shadow.
Volshra, I hated that so much.
Your
Okay.
magics don't.
Your power belongs in the Nightborne.
May I point out something that no one has really talked about until recently? That was actually Xavius, not Malfurion, saying that.
Oh well.
That was Xavius taunting Tyrande on purpose.
Oh, for real?
Yeah, that's Xavius. I'm not. Yeah, I didn't get that until like someone pointed out. Like, yeah,
Wow.
that's Xavius. pointing. That's him taunting you as.
That actually makes it pretty funny.
Yeah.
That's actually pretty funny.
That it goes from him like whining and being sad to the actual Malfurion being like, "Haha, you bitch."
That just
Yeah,
makes
pretty
Xavius. That just makes Xavius so much more petty. He's like, not only am I gonna pretend to be Malfurion, I'm gonna make him sound like a total fucking wimp.
Well, yeah, he delights in torturing. He hates.
Okay, that actually just makes me like Xavius more.
Yeah, no.
Especially when fucking Malfurion later is going, "You fucking pussy," and he's like going, "No."
Well, that's literally where he gets his power. He gets his power from dread. That's how he becomes powerful.
Xavius was dope. I liked him a lot.
Yeah, good villain.
Stop Tyrantes. Malfurion, my love.
Okay, I still don't. I know this is unpopular, and this has nothing to do with the Nightborne, but I don't hate Malfurion because I think of him at his most ideal. That's the thing. Whenever I encounter a character, I always think of them in their most ideal form. It's why I'm not really on the Thrall bandwagon. I've always wondered, why am I not on the Thrall hate bandwagon? It's because I think of him in his most ideal form. If you guys have ever watched the trailer of Thrall for the hero when he was
Heroes of the Storm? Exactly.
Yes! Oh my god! I'm not gonna play it now.
Really as good as your latest work.
That's
goes
fair.
for character impressions.
That's fair. Fuck. Anyway, I don't really have a response to that.
Look, we've all said before, we hate Gaul, but we love Thrall. So let's just all get that out of the way.
That's fair. Now,
Okay.
let's
Now
talk.
back.
Okay, people, I see this on the forums all the time. Some people say that Tyranny was not really that unreasonable towards the.
No, she's not.
Well, she wasn't. Yeah.
Actually,
I was in the
she
camp. She's
kinda was.
completely justified.
Okay, hold on.
Okay,
The Alliance.
let's
So
hear from
this
the
doesn't-
Alliance player.
friend.
Let's
Yeah,
hear from
our
the Alliance
friend.
friend. Kaizo, go ahead, buddy.
Well, now that the spotlight's on me, I don't want to. Actually,
Don't fuck it up.
she was completely abrasive to the Nightborne. She dismissed them. She down talked them. She made Tharissa run like simple errands. And there's a very particular world quest I like to bring up when this conversation comes up, where you have to go around putting posters to rally the Nightborne.
Yes, I know this one. Yeah.
On the Horde, Leodrin says, "Show our Nightborne allies that we are there beside them to fight." On the Alliance, Tehran says, "Just encourage them to fight for themselves."
And to be fair, though, Tyranda's people have they're kind of on the brink of extinction, so I understand she doesn't want to risk more of her people being killed.
I mean, sure, but like Thranduil's did that too in The Hobbit, and people still hate him.
I mean, well, not only that, but you can't use that as a counter argument. You can't use that as a counter argument because the
Blood Elves are just as
the Blood Elves are just as, if not more.
probably more.
Yeah, but Blood Elves have actual chance of surviving. The Night Elves don't, honestly.
I don't think there's any basis to say that at all.
I mean, okay. The Blood Elves have strong allies. They are, for the most part, have most of their magical addictions under control, and their territory has mostly been reclaimed. The Night Elves can't stay that way. They don't raise families the same way.
The Night Elves don't have any magical addiction at all.
That they know of.
They have incredibly strong allies.
Significantly stronger than the Blood Elves, I would venture to argue.
Incredibly
like the
powerful
Forsaken?
ties to extremely powerful beings.
Yeah.
Elune notwithstanding, Cenarius himself and the other wild gods. I mean, the Night Elves are in no position to lose anything other than their house in a couple of months.
Well, it's also the same reason why they're losing so much is because of their own stubbornness to change to what's going on around them. Like they are still trying to hold on to
stubbornness
Ashen.
change and having orcs cut down your forests. I think that's a bit of apples and oranges there.
You know what I think it is, though?
They're kind of xenophobic, but that has changed within the Alliance because
True.
they've allowed highborn mages within their ranks again.
Did you see that meme of Tyranny trying to figure out why she abides by Alliance hereditary rules or something like that? Oh my god!
With the king.
Yeah, somebody find that meme of like Tyranny. It's sort of like draws attention
Andy,
to.
god damn it.
I can't think of it or even think of how to describe it. But you know what I think it is? I don't think it's so much. I don't think Tyranny is entirely at fault, and here's why. Because depending on the temperament of the Nightborne as a whole, could have also affected the decision to go with the Alliance or Horde. If they were more chill about it and they didn't take offense, they could have been like, imagine if the Nightborne were like, yeah, you're right, you're kind of right not to like us. I mean, we did kind of bow out for 10,000 years. I mean, Yeah, I mean, they're not the
We
first.
did leave you high and dry during the War of the Ancients.
But see,
Yeah,
and
and
here's the thing, though. Like,
Uh,
I understand Tyrande's anger towards them and stuff like that, but she's also looking at this from a sense of their magic too.
Yeah,
Right.
she
And I
hates
was like,
magic.
and I feel like that's very hypocritical because the Highborn were supposedly let back into the Alliance, and that's the reason why Night Elf.
Yeah, but the Highborn didn't like fool Dan into their fucking font of power to summon in.
Well,
And it doesn't
technically
necessarily
they
mean-
did because of Ijara. These are still the very same Highborn from Ijara's.
That's a bit of a
Bullshit.
different comparison, though.
and
where
just
Elisanda-
because the Highborn were brought back into the Night Elf Society does not mean Tyrande liked them. I mean, Thrall had warlocks in the Cleft of Shadow. Doesn't mean he liked them necessarily. And Garrosh went as far as killing
true,
them.
but still, it comes from that fact of, you can't just be like, you can't let one group in and you can still dislike them, but you could still try to be more kindred, I guess. I don't know. It's hard to explain.
But the Highborn are also heavily regulated.
Yeah, they are. They're
And the
very,
Highborn.
yeah. I think Highborn should
sorry.
be their own allied race, to be honest.
I
Yeah,
agree with that. I agree with that because I would think that the Highborn who are with the Alliance and they saw the treatment of the Night Elves towards the Nightborn, they would probably feel a little offended, Like, I
I
would think.
don't want any more elves for allied races. We're at our elf
I-
We need
capacity.
at least 3 more elf races.
Right?
I love that fucking picture down below of Illidan just screaming at Tyrande, "Let me smash!"
But which makes me go back, because I had mentioned it earlier, the whole Dathramar, what would have happened if these Highborn never went and made their bubble? Would these also be the same Highborn that followed after Dathramar when they were exiled from Night Elf Society because Night Elves realized, shit, we can't kill all these people. That's not right.
That's not right.
Well,
I
I still think that the Nightborn could have just as easily ended up on the Alliance if they were a little bit more sympathetic towards the distrust and were like, yeah, you're right. Because they're not the first group of people to sort of shield themselves off. Gilneas did that, and they got a ton of shit for it. Gilneas was not
Yeah,
popular.
but Gilneas also came back to the Alliance with its tail tucked.
Yeah, after they're
Yeah.
smashed.
It's like Gen was pretty much going, so I made a mistake.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, Gen's been humbled. Well, then now he was, but now he's back to him being like,
He's back where he needs to be. We need more aggressive leaders on
Yeah,
the
I do agree with
You
that.
need more aggressive leaders.
yeah, the Alliance needs more aggressive
I am
leaders.
thrilled that Jane is coming back and because
That doesn't make
really
him less of a dick, though. I agree with you, but he's still a dick.
I mean, not to Alliance.
So
but
the Nightborn are on the Horde. Ooh, I almost said the wrong thing there. They're on the Horde. Did anyone else see that coming? Those of you who
I did.
You did. Why did you see it coming specifically?
I mean, the comparison seems pretty obvious, and then especially when things like allied races are hinted at and announced. I don't think that it's a very smart decision aesthetically to give the Alliance 2 sets of Night Elves.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that.
Fair enough.
I fully believe that the Nightborn were a result of Void Elves. You gave the Alliance High Elves, and you gave the Horde Night Elves.
Okay, can I just point this out?
they
I love
weren't
the
even high
Nightborn,
elves.
but I do not like the player character Nightborn.
Okay, so yeah, the player character. Okay, look, I was sitting down today with my,
Oh my God, I need to find
Nightborn
the meme.
Warlock,
I
and
need to find the meme.
her leg was crossed over, and I was just looking at her sitting there. I was like, wait, something looks a little funny here.
Oh my God,
And
find me the meme. The expectation versus reality meme. I need it.
And I scooted closer, and there's this fucking huge gap of where her legs crossed with the robe. I'm like, oh no. Oh no.
I am very annoyed at their skin tones.
God,
I actually like
If
this
you're gonna give me Drow, don't make them blue, make them black.
I mean, I would agree. I
He's
think
black.
definitely.
Hey, I'm always up for more skin tones. More
Yes,
better.
yeah, please give more skin tones. I do like the skin tones they gave us, but they need to take a darker.
I
You versus
found
the
it.
guy they tell you not
The
to worry
Nightborn got
about.
whitewashed.
I found the meme. Look at it.
Holy shit.
I do feel fucking gypped. And okay, here's why. When I was talking about, I've been saying a lot. I didn't believe in the Horde bias until I saw the allied races, because honestly, I thought our allied races were a lot cooler, and I thought the Zandalari trolls and the Nightborne were gonna have completely unique and different animations and riggings. No, it's just night elves. Jesus Christ. So that took the fucking wind out of my sails real quick, dude. I was like, oh, well then, never mind.
Only they're really skinny and emancipated night elves.
There's something.
They still have
To be
massive
fair,
hands.
There's something.
Yeah, I know. I get it. I know. All they do is drink mana juice. I get it. All right.
There's something
But
about their
I just
running
really
animation, though.
They could be better.
They
could be.
they could definitely be
much
better. But here's the thing, though. I think, remember, the non-player models that we have, they didn't really, like, there wasn't a lot of customizable options for them compared to
it was limited.
these models that were already in-game, the Void Elves with the Blood Elves
You see how many ears these Valkyra are getting?
Yeah. Now, for those,
I put that in that mini video. Holy crap. They're putting so much work into these Valkyra and not these Nightborne.
Okay.
I'm thinking with the Nightborne, come Battle for Azeroth, they're probably going to fix the issues.
Better.
I imagine that we are going to get a lot more customization.
I don't think so. The Worgen still sniff.
For the uninitiated masses who are watching this video or are playing video games while listening to us, I'm going to direct your attention real quick to this image of the Nightborne model here. Now, Qualia, correct me if I'm wrong, but there are NPC models like the Nightborne and like the Zandalari trolls and like other variety of things where they are basically customizable within a certain extent. Like this hand piece and shoulder pieces and waist pieces and leg pieces. There's like maybe there's like 3 or 5 different configurations that you can have, but they're kind of locked here. The model does not allow for player character armor. It allows for these specific assets. Now, when you have,
you could not put a red shirt on one of those guys. That just wouldn't fit.
Exactly. And because, I mean, when you think about it, you have 4 or 5 different glove options, 4 or 5 different hand options, 4 or 5, and like you said, there was that instance where they, like, you know, when they tell you go find the night elf with a short shirt and basically in a crop top and a mesh pants. Yeah, they're basically just sort of showing off this how many different permutations of a night elf they can make, a Nightborne they can make. So that's why they had these player character models. But just fix the skin tone. God damn, that'd be a step in the right direction, don't you think?
Fix the skin tone, fix the face, fix the body,
fix it all,
fix the hair.
Do it again.
Let's do it again.
There's a few things to fix on there, but yeah, I wouldn't mind a little fix up.
My only qualm
look
about
at that power stance on the left there compared to the.
Yeah, I've actually noticed a lot more allied races are coming with this power stance. The upright orcs get in the power stance. Goremash gets load right
I saw it.
The Kultiran males. I can't wait till we do our episode on the Kultiran males because I'm just gonna rail about how they're just fucking fat. Anyway,
they are.
Oh, dude.
Thick.
Yeah.
God, dude. You seen the freaking heavy lifters?
I've been at it with Casco about it. Oh my god. Anyway, we'll get into that later. But does anyone else feel like the female running animation is kind of weird? Like female trolls had this thing where their legs were moving faster than their bodies were moving forward, and it kind of felt like they were floating a little bit. I feel like the female night elf run animations is not fully grounded to the ground that they're running on. I've seen like female Nightborne running around, and it just looks weird to me.
No, it's not just you.
I don't play a female Nightborne. I don't know.
Well, I've just noticed
I've noticed it a little bit.
That's just Nightborne in general.
They
are running a bit weird.
Maybe it's because they don't bob up and down. There isn't really. What's this, Qualia?
Yeah, they go side to side.
It's strong, man.
What is this, Qualia?
Okay. This is what perfection looks like. You might not like it.
But this is peak performance. Oh, dude.
This is peak performance.
God, I don't want to get into it, but I'll say his belly does not stick out that far compared to the... God, fucking, never mind. Hold on. Okay, let's talk about racials and class.
Yeah, let's get into that.
Let's move on. Let's talk about racials and class options. Okay. They get to be hunters, mage, monk, priest, rogue, warlock, and warrior. I think all these make sense except for monk, priest, and warlock.
We're just saying that
Warlock does
because
make sense.
I don't think they should be
Warlock makes
warriors either.
sense.
I think warriors make sense because they're meant
I think they should.
I think everyone should be warriors because it's sort of like no matter what, even if you don't know magic and you don't know special weapons, you know how to pick up a sword and swing. You might suck at. I guess it depends.
Yeah,
okay.
but they're selling with all the animations and stuff. They're selling the fact that your warrior can literally crack the ground they step on, and with those tiny little fucking baby noodle arms, I don't see that.
I mean, if we got gnome warriors, I'll get the Nightborne a pass.
I'm gonna give it a pass. I just
You know what, Gore?
it irks me a little bit.
We're gonna do a series of videos soon where we talk about different classes and their fantasies, and I'm gonna get you on for the warrior one for sure. You too,
Hell yeah,
Oasna.
absolutely.
Now here's
all right.
We'll test.
Nightborne and warlocks. We could talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, let's talk about.
So the reason why I think Nightborne warlocks make sense, you can come from it in a couple different aspects. You can come from it from the fact that a warlock in general, they want to be on the winning side. So they would probably easily see, oh shit, we're losing, I'm going to go ahead and join their side. Or you can come from a stance of like a double agent. They were actually for the rebellion, and then, they were just being a double agent and...
playing devil's advocate.
Hold on.
Go ahead.
So getting into the warlocks in general, how many races exist where people can just walk around being a warlock in general?
I mean, in their own cities?
0.
None, really.
Yeah. None, except for the Nightborne. They're the only ones that would openly have demons walking around on their streets all the time.
Well,
and they had a revolution because of it.
Yeah, they had their whole insurrection and rebellion and all that, and they kind of it does go into it. Like mine is actually a saboteur, part of the rebellion,
right?
Capturing demons, enslaving them and whatnot, and using them as part of the resistance. And she's basically pulling these demons, not maybe out of Legion, Ethereal, whatever the earlier Warlock quest lines were, because I didn't go through those.
Well, but here's my take on it.
Basically from off the streets, like those smaller, weaker demons, and recruiting them by enslaving them.
Here's my take on why they can be warlocks. Even as much as I hate it. Okay, I'll preface it with some context. I'm a very traditionalist kind of guy. I like Tauren to act like Tauren, orcs to act like orcs, and I don't like people being special snowflakes. But I have to recognize that none of these races, when the player gets a hold of them, are meant to act like a hive mind. The reason why I think you have Nightborne warlocks is because you can be the kind of Nightborne that says, fuck society, I just want to do my own thing. I just want to be a warlock and pursue my own personal power. Now, I don't think that Nightborne, by and large, like warlocks for obvious reasons, but we're talking about the individual here, and self-agency, and having control over your own destiny as a Nightborne. When you are playing a Nightborne, you're making a choice of whether or not you want to be like every other Nightborne, or if you want to be your own agent. And if you want to be like every other Nightborne, you can be a hunter, you can be a mage, you can be a warrior. But if you want to be the kind of Nightborne that's just not really interested in towing your line in society, you just want to go about the world on your own, you want to get your own power, you want to be master of your own destiny, then sure. Being a Nightborne that decides to be a warlock instead makes sense to me. Does that sound about right?
I think
sure.
Go ahead. Go ahead. You were saying something?
Nope.
Oh.
I think I was just cutting out a little bit.
Tiny bit,
but
yeah.
I was just saying, I don't see anything, that's...
Blizzard.
Where was I going with that? I was just saying, all I said was, I don't see anything wrong with that, and then I was like, well, I wasn't meant to take a platform here on. I was just saying, I don't see anything opposed to that.
To kind of caveat on that, actually, I just butchered that word. That's not how you use caveat. An addendum to that. As much as we know about who the Nightborne are and how they operate, what their values are, and what they uphold as as their chief ideals. When you're a player character, it's like in D&D. Just because you are a race does not subscribe you to a certain pattern of behaviors. And while I certainly like Nightborne who act like Nightborne, and I don't think that Nightborne society, I don't think Thalistria, Oclolith, and Valtois are going to be, the most favorable towards you if you are a warlock, strictly speaking in canon. That doesn't mean that you can be, again, a rogue Nightborne doing your own thing, because you're more interested in yourself than your society. And I think it's fair.
I don't know. I think Rogue actually fits in with the Night Elf Insurrection probably more than probably any other class.
Yeah, definitely.
Definitely the second most I've seen.
Oh wait, do you mean I meant? Oh, sorry. When I said Rogue Agent, I didn't literally mean the class. I meant Renegade, basically. Like you're pursuing your own agenda, and that might include summoning demons and sucking fel. Who knows? It's on you.
Fel.
You do you, boo boo. As far as warriors go, I want to touch on that very briefly. There are two ideas of the warrior class, right? You are either the everyman footman, or you're the Lothar Anduin the Anduin Lothar super champion, martial master. I've always erred on the side that a warrior is more the everyman foot soldier, but lately with the Order Hall, Blizzard wants the warrior to be a little bit more exciting than that.
I think you're getting mixed up with what a soldier and a warrior are. There is a difference.
Yeah, well, one is military martial. The other one's more. I guess we got different classes of warriors.
Well, that's what I mean. I've always interpreted the warrior as your basic soldier, but Blizzard wants the warrior to be a little bit more grand than that, and I'm starting to accept that.
They should be. I mean, it's kind of fitting for who they are. I mean, warriors can come from all walks of life, and I'm sure Gorm can back me up on this.
I'm going to keep my mouth shut because I could write a fucking book on this shit.
Yeah. I'm sure Gorm gets it. Fucking warriors, I mean, I've always thought it was really interesting how you find, like, orc warriors in the Argent Crusade, largely a human light-based organization. And it just goes to show you that, like, a warrior can, they're from all walks of life. I don't think they necessarily... I've always made a big distinction between being a soldier and being a warrior. Warriors, it's a full-time thing. It's something that you live and strive for. You breathe it. It's versus a soldier who just does it part-time. You can be a soldier and not be particularly good at fighting and just kind of do it.
You can also be a soldier and not be a warrior. You can't be like a mage soldier.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, exactly.
Again, I'm gonna simplify it like this. There are two thoughts of how to interpret a warrior. Either the soldier, which is your everyman.
I think there's a lot more than two thoughts.
Yeah, there's more than two.
There are, but I'm gonna boil it down as best as I can. You can either be the everyman soldier or you can be the champion. When I say champion, I mean the armsman, the tactical officer, the berserker, the everything else, the juggernaut, the guardian, the vanguard. So when I say champion, I mean the heroic ideals of what a warrior is.
So I can tell you my first experience, my earlier years in WoW, and my PvP partner was a orc warrior.
Yeah.
And that was what a warrior was to me. He was the gladiator arena guy.
Yeah. Well, in my own character, my own undead warrior, I've always thought of him just as like a standard soldier, more of a tactical kind of guy because he formed a rebellion group called the Forward Line, and he's a guild leader, but I don't consider him to be a barbarian, a gladiator, a champion, or anything like that. In fact, when I think of my warrior, I think of him getting his ass kicked by death knights, mages, shamans, druids pretty handily. That's my own interpretation. And so,
are we going to talk about warriors now, or are we going to set this aside for a rainy day?
We'll set aside.
I'd love to talk about warriors. We could do a whole thing on warriors. I'd love that.
Yeah. We will one day. But the reason why warrior and I'm bringing it all back. The reason why warrior makes sense to me for the Nightborne is because my interpretation for warrior has always been every man soldier who can pick up a weapon, and basically the class that you would be if you were not magical and you were not a hunter and you were not a rogue, you would be a warrior. So
these warriors are pretty magical.
Yeah, I was gonna say elf warriors are kind of different from your atypical warrior.
Well, I think their magic comes from the fact that they're elves, less than the fact that they're warriors. But I could see them being like a spell blade or a first blade.
Centuries of training and mastering your work, I think, is actually what plays more into being elf.
Right.
If I may clarify something, I did say at the beginning of this that I don't like that they can be warriors. What I mean by that is not that I don't think that they should be warriors. I think that it makes sense for them to be warriors. I think it makes sense that, and I don't want to restrict player choice in that matter. The reason I don't like that they're warriors is purely aesthetic. I take a much harder stance on Tauren paladins. I don't think that they should be part of the game, but that's not right. I don't want them to be part of the game, but it's not that I don't think that they should. Player choice is never, ever a bad thing. I personally just don't like the aesthetic.
I see. So for you, the warrior aesthetic is more like the rough and tumble gladiator barbarian. You don't think the Nightborne quite...
It's not what my interpretation of a warrior aesthetic is. It's the game's interpretation. Literally,
well, you also have to think they can't do specific animations for what each class for a different race is going to be like, because I would think a Blood Elf Warrior would have been something more akin to fucking
Spellbreakers.
The anti-mage dudes.
A spellbreaker.
Yeah.
There you go.
There we go. I was like, I have it on the tip of my tongue, and I would imagine the animation for that would be very different from what an actual warrior would be. But Blizz
Or
can't
Swordmaster.
Yeah.
So Blizz can't quite cater to that different animation style.
Yeah.
I don't expect them to. It's just that I don't like again, I don't hate the fact that they are in the game. I do hate the fact that Tauren Paladins are in the game, but I think that they have a place. I just
think
don't
that
like
some people I think it's neat that the lore that some people come up with for the Tauren Paladins. I don't know if that's
it's cool. Like that's saving grace in my eyes, this whole Sunwalker lore. What I don't like is walking.
But when they're dressed up in like the T2 or the tier 2 Retribution Paladins that
running around with Ashbringer.
Yeah, it looks so stupid. I'm writing out a script for a video that I want to make for a Chopping Wood series called The Paladin Problem, which kind of relates to the Priest Problem, but believe me, I've been thinking a lot about this. Anyway,
did you really call it chopping wood?
Yeah, because I gotta gather fire. I might call it chopping firewood to sort of bring home the idea that this is a
chopping block. Just call it chopping block.
Chopping block. That's great. Why did I think about that? God. Wait, hold on. What's a chopping block?
Calm down.
Sorry, headphones users.
It's a place where you execute people.
Yeah, never mind. That's not quite
chopping block. No,
the chopping block. I love it.
Jesus Christ.
The fucking subject of the day is up on the chopping block. Simple as that. And we talked about it.
What's your sound wave look like, Dayon? Did it just become a fucking square?
I'll normalize it. I promise. I'll fix it in post. But anyway, I think
that was seriously a moment of
I think warriors make sense for the Nightborne. I know Goremash, you may not think so, but it's more of an aesthetic thing for you, right?
Again, it's not that I don't think that the Nightborne can be warriors. It's specifically the animations and the theming that they have for warriors in the game. It's not that I don't think that they can be. It's that I don't think, and I know that they can't change it. It's just that personally irks me. I don't think that they shouldn't be warriors. I don't think that they shouldn't be in the game. It just irks me.
Who knows? They might actually see differences in the future, considering the completely different road they took with Zondalari Druids. So,
I'd be super about that.
That'd be dope.
Oh yeah, that was a real left out of field. I was surprised by that.
Because
Horde bias.
Yeah, there's no such thing as Horde bias. But anyway,
back to the Nightborne. Okay, I don't think Monk makes sense for the Nightborne.
Fuck you.
Yeah, I don't either, but whatever. I'll roll with it.
Yeah, I made a Nightborne monk.
Hold on. Before, I don't want to shit on any monk Nightborne here, but I would like to hear anyone's story who has a Nightborne monk. I'd like to hear what their character is like and how they become a monk, because I'm curious how people make that character. I'm more curious than saying I don't want to do it or want to see. I want to hear how people made these characters and what their background is.
Like, from what I've noticed, just in general, most people who are monks, they're not playing as monks.
I hate that.
Right. Well, I mean, what are you going to do about it?
Yeah. You're the traditionalist, Dan.
It's honestly, it's probably because of people who don't know quite what to do with making it a traditional monk. So it's a little bit easier to make it a brawler or something like that.
I have an interesting take on it that I just kind of came up with. So we look at the traditional Shaolin monks, and why were they unarmed? Well, because it was illegal for them to carry arms.
Exactly.
And they developed all these super martial powers just using their body and their hands and whatever else, turning their bodies into weapons. So during this time of occupation, the common citizens weren't allowed to carry weapons, much like feudal Japan era.
Right.
So
fucking Qualia
developed these kind of monk-like abilities in order to fight back and be able to defend themselves against these martial armed
so then it would be like
people patrolling the streets. It would be the civilians, yeah. Or it could just be people that, they're guarding their arc wine, and they're trying to protect it, but they can't. That's a traditional monk. You have your brewery and you're trying to protect it. That's what a monk is. Because you got to defend it, but you're not allowed to have a weapon, so you got to be able to fight them. That's what a monk is. You defend your booze.
There you go. I got it perfectly on the fucking head. Thank you.
I will say, somebody did explain it to me like this. Because my whole thing has been, the monk is a very Pandaren-themed class. The four Celestials.
This comes from Pandaren, but that's the essence of what a monk is you defend your booze.
No, I get that. the way I had someone explain it to me was that, okay, even though it has a lot of imagery of the 4 August Celestials and Pandaren and Panda, and it's panda hands and fists on almost all the icons, you don't need to be a Pandaren monk to become a Pandaren monk, so to speak. You could already have a sort of martial discipline of using your body. You could already be used to fighting with your hand and fist, and then just be taught by pandas and sort of build upon what you already know and incorporate what they're teaching you. You don't have to start from zero. My thing has always been, if you're a monk, you're starting from zero. Because think about it. If you're a Nightborne monk, canonically, you're not really taught by the Pandaren until sometime after the events of Legion. So you'd be going into battle for Azeroth with maybe a couple months experience under your belt, if that. You'd be a pretty novice monk. But that has to assume, my argument has had to assume that you started at zero, and it's not necessarily true. You could have some
that's assuming that you are related with the Pandaren at all. I'm just cutting Pandaren out of the equation. They're isolated. How else are they going to be monks? This is how they developed it. I'm just building the story behind it.
No. Well, they have Pandaren monks, the little hub now teaching them. Like, you see Pandaren NPCs teaching Nightborne. So the idea is most of them are getting taught by pandas.
Something has just occurred to me.
What's that?
So leveling a Nightborne, you're going to go through all the Legion quests, aren't you?
Yeah, pretty much.
Isn't that a bit of timey-wimey bullshit to have your own people
It all is.
So when you roll a Nightborne, you're already finished with the storyline.
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay.
They give you the quest,
so
and you're already exalted with them.
Okay.
Yeah. So technically,
I'll get behind that.
I don't think you. My Nightborne isn't level 110 yet, but I don't think you go into Stormware at all, other than to do the daily quests.
I kind of want to make a Nightborne, but I don't have.
Do it, you pussy.
Do it.
I'm not reserving the game until I can get the physical collector's edition copy.
Oh my god!
I want to make a Nightborne monk now. I kind of like that idea.
I did. No, do it. I already made one Qualia, and trust me, exactly what you just described, exactly what I did with my monk.
I just went the cop-out route, and I just made her a botanist because I really like the botanist and the Nighthold a lot.
It is really cool. So, if they could have gave us the druid stuff, I understand why they didn't, but it could have.
I wanted.
Do you understand? Let me just say, do you understand what the reaction would be if all 3 Horde allied races could be druids? Do you understand?
Sorry, we had to do it for the aesthetics. I'm sorry.
I completely understand. Apparently, the Alliance is really fucking salty about not getting a new druid race.
It's if they need a new one. Fucking furries. Whole lot of them.
They're always druids.
Watch the Vulpera get added to the Horde, and they get a druid race.
Oh my god. Oh my god. I actually really like
Volteran humans who also get druids.
No.
God, they just be fat walrus forms.
No. You could be like the skinny Kulturan and you turn into like a mink.
No. They literally go bear mode.
You guys haven't heard the latest rumor?
What's that? Kulturans?
There are Kulturan druids.
What?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, no, yeah, they're witches of the woods. Witches of the woods.
Super.
It hasn't been. They haven't been confirmed as a playable race yet, but
they are part of
I get it.
How could they not be? If we're
I think there are NPC shapeshifters.
Yeah,
well, technically, if you think about it, the Gilnean druids.
No.
Well,
I do not want human druids.
From Gilneas. They're
See, there you go. They already have it.
Harvest witches.
No.
I think it's cool. I think
Harvest
it's really
witches are
cool.
not druids.
Fuck you. I think it's
That's
super cool that they can have
Harvest.
That's literally what druids are.
Harvest druids are a bad band-aid to explain how Worgen druids could be a thing before they got their Worgen forms. Let's be honest here.
No.
yeah, somebody's.
God damn it!
Okay.
Less
honest.
Oh, I'm doing my own joke like a fucking asshole.
Who did that?
That was cathartic.
That was absolutely me. Oh shit!
So where were we?
Fucking Christ.
So Nightborne warriors.
Nightborne druids. That's right.
And monks and druids.
Okay, I don't think Nightborne priests make sense. I don't think they make sense. I don't think they should have got priests.
Different kinds of priests.
Yeah, it's evident though that they don't really have a faith.
No race has the same kind of priest.
Okay,
Humans and dwarves are the only ones that share.
Yeah.
May I just point out that
aesthetic differences.
Well,
At least
gnomes do,
change
too.
the names of the abilities.
They won't do that
They used
though.
to.
So now
It'd be
it just
nice
kinda,
if they did that.
It just kind of compacts the priest problem, what I call the quote-unquote priest problem. I mean, the reason I don't think that they should have a faith is because obviously, Elasan spat on the faith, and I know that she was the bad guy, but she's still emblematic of what most of the Nightborne believed before they decided to ally with the Legion. I don't think the Nightborne had a faith. I think
the
Night Elves didn't have a faith either,
right.
and they're still priests because they're priestesses of Elune.
Well, yeah,
Okay.
but did the
They
Nightborne have a
do
priest of
have
Elune?
a faith. First of all, the Night Elves do have a faith.
They
The
do.
Sisterhood of the Moon is the faith of Elune.
Yes.
And
Okay, well, yeah, they have their
temple,
temples, and there's
the
like
greatest-
a religious
the
thing
largest
to it, but it's not
temple-
like I look at it different than the Light Church.
Oh no, it's not the light
it
church
is
at all.
different, but it's still a religion. Paganism is still a religion despite Christianity. So,
Right.
and the largest temple of
Well,
Elune
even
is
then, like
the biggest.
paganism is more tied to real life things. Like you can be like, okay, I worship the rock. The rock's gonna be there no matter what, whether you believe it in or not.
That's a cult. No, cult figures are essentially when it's around like one person versus a
cares?
set of
But
ideals.
That's not the point. What faith did the Nightborne have, if any? They don't believe in Elune.
What
They
I'm
don't believe in the light.
saying
know that.
is there is Elune's largest temple right across the street.
Yes, you are. Okay,
Literally the biggest one in existence.
Dan.
Oh, okay.
Dan,
Well,
you
what's
do
up?
know where Taranda's from, right?
She is from Surmar, yeah.
Yes. Okay, then you just answered your own question. There you go.
Well, no, Elasan spat on the idea of their false piety.
But there's still.
Elasan wasn't a priest.
Yeah, but she was
well,
making
okay.
fun of
Fair
them
enough.
because the Night Elves pretend to be pious.
Oh, I
Look,
see.
But
Well,
she's
and-
also the bad guy, so
Okay.
she's making fun of them.
But you also have to realize just because Elasan said something like that, that doesn't mean the other ones who followed her did not believe like
Well,
Tyrande
I was
did.
gonna
If
say
Trump
that,
says a thing, does that mean we all subscribe to that belief?
yes. No.
Right.
Okay, look.
But I was gonna say that in the same way.
This
that
is
I
what all Americans believe.
in the way that I said earlier, I said warlocks, Nightborne warlocks could be warlocks because they're sort of their own free agents and they're just doing what they want in spite of the rest. Yeah, sure, why not? Priests would be the same reason, but when I
So
interpreted Elasan's comments as the Nightborne not believing in Elune.
No.
Listen to this. So Elasan basically, Aryan master race. So Elasan
Sure.
equal Hitler, right? We can
Yeah.
make that comparison.
Oh my
Sure.
god.
I mean,
Why
I
not?
don't- I don't.
I was gonna say more King
Priests,
Louis.
the
but-
religious, are like the hidden religious Jewish people or whatever.
I just want to see where
but,
you're going with
but
this.
Elune. Yeah.
Okay. But okay, hold on. So I'm sorry. Maybe I just missed the fact that the Nightborne do associate with Elune. Do they? Maybe I just didn't know.
Well,
Okay, look.
Sometimes.
Elasan
No,
is.
there are
So
no.
Hold on, we're cutting over each other. We're cutting over each other.
Yeah. Okay, hold on. I want to hear from Lith and Kysderal. Kysderal, is someone on the Alliance? Do you know whether or not the Nightborne have expressly represented Elune?
Elune.
Yeah.
No, they haven't. There are no Nightborne and priest NPCs. Their only association with Elune is all the statues they have up in Suramar, which honestly, to me, can be kind of said those could be statues of Elasan. So who knows? And the Temple of Elune being part of Suramar until it sank and became the Tomb of Sargeras.
Right. What about you, Lith? Same question. What indication have you found that the Nightborne have a faith?
So I haven't found any indication that they have a faith, but if we're going off of just real life in some sort of sense, there's always going to be someone who has some type of faith, even if it's not the conventional type of faith.
Okay. What do you mean by conventional type of faith?
Well, example, a lot of people look at Wiccans as not a conventional faith. They, you know, so
Right.
or having more of like a, I can't remember the word for it, but like the people who believe in something, but they don't know what they believe in.
Agnostics.
Yeah.
Okay. So I think
It's to have a secular society.
I want to hear what Qualia has to say next.
So we didn't. If there was any Elune imagery, it's all like I've gone through a lot of the Suramar architecture and stuff, looking specifically for this. And you might find some crescent moons and stuff, but most of that's too much Sargeras. If there is any faith of Elune in Suramar, it's very much underground, which makes it more interesting, I think, in my opinion. Where is if people are of the Elune faith, then they're not open about it, and probably because they're not allowed to be open about it in public.
To play into Qualia, what he just said, I'm sorry, but this has been bothering me for a while. Qualia says that if it's underground, then that's probably going to be with the common people. Well, most of the Nightborne that we meet are mostly common people. There's definitely a huge difference, even in their city structure, because the nobles and rich are, well, as any other city goes, are sanctioned off in their own walled part of the city with their own terrace closer to the wine, and they have direct access to the palace, versus the normal Nightborne, which just live like in the commons. And you can see they're much more modest to a degree. I do honestly think that Elisande is, again, a magistrate, is essentially just a judge, essentially. So she is more of the imperial side of the city, and she doesn't necessarily represent the common people. She represents the nobles' interest as the ruling class of the city. So, as Qualia said, I believe that, yes, there is a priesthood in there, and they are technically, I don't care what anyone says, they are basically just night elves that have been mutated. They are their own type of people, but they are essentially the night elves. They even say it themselves. They call themselves city elves. They consider themselves more or less related to the night elves than they do the high elves. And I do too. I do too.
Well, I mean,
they're still a lot closer, like similar, like.
Well, they're much closer to night elves, I'd say.
Yeah, they have a huge road that goes to the Temple of Elune all the way into Val Shara that was clearly maintained for a long time until the Sundering.
That's fair.
So I believe that, as Qualia said, it's probably is underground. It's probably much more repressed, but we can't ignore the fact that Tyrande did come from Suramar. They did have a priesthood at some point, and that you also have the temple. Don't forget, another interesting Nightborne that we don't talk about is the Nightborne that almost killed himself in the cemetery that's above the city. You know which one I'm talking about, right?
Yeah.
You have to go through the whole quest, and he's like thinking about killing himself, and then he's like, I can't do this, and he needs you to go find his wife and lay her to rest.
Oh, yeah, that one. Yes.
He was an interesting character that I don't see a lot talked about, because he's like, he represents a Nightborne, essentially, this hopeless plight. Like it's almost kind of like, I can see where he's coming from. He's almost sympathizing with Elisande, but he's like, at that point, like, there's no hope left, so what's even the point? But then he kind of snaps out at last second. He's like, I can't just let this all go to hell. So I believe that because of that huge cemetery that's right there, and it even says so on some of the plaques of those deceased, that they are servants of Elune. There's even one that even says there was a ranger general that died in service to Elune. So I do believe.
Also, is it Falinar, that area where the
something like that
door blew up? That was also a temple of Elune.
Yes, it was.
Just underground, essentially. Or got buried.
I would add the caveat that I don't think Elune's religion was repressed. More people just weren't interested in it.
Yeah.
Maybe there's an underground clergy, but I think by and whole they developed a secular magic-based society.
Right.
They just weren't interested in it.
It's almost like
noble in general, though, because think about it in the sense of Ajara was not really someone who revered Elune at all herself.
That's a good point.
So I think it's just something with a noble society of not revering anything in their faith. So it's a lot easier to say that these civilians still had some reverence to Elune compared to those in the noble parts of society.
Yes, exactly.
Well, I mean, compare that to
are these giant like emperor, empress type deities. You don't want to have competition, basically.
Exactly.
But and also consider the fact that
you don't want people saying, "Oh, I don't answer to you. I answer to a loon" or something like that. You know, you can't have that.
And like, also consider the fact of like how historically religion is. Like nowadays, you're seeing people what's the word I'm looking for? Sort of turn away from it more and more, because what the biggest draw in for people who believe in religion is hope, the hope for something beyond what we have now. Right. That's why it was so fucking prominent among common people in every civilization. It's because for the longest time, they had basically fucking nothing. So that hope and desire to believe that there is something beyond this life is what drives people onward. So it makes a fucking whole lot of sense that the common people of Suramar would want to believe in the Loon and believe in like this clergy, and people like Elisand don't really have much of a reason to, because they are comfortable where they're at.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yep.
Very salient. But I keep having to take a step back and remind myself that player characters are not going to always be the stereotypical version of that race, even though the stereotypical version of that race is by and large my favorite. I like I said, I like Tauren who act like Tauren, and Nightborne who act like Nightborne. I have to sort of remind myself that just because the Nightborne can be a priest does not necessarily mean that the player character is going to be a priest that makes the most sense. If you want to, you could be a Nightborne priest who is an old god cultist. If you want, you can study the way the Blood Elves do it, and you can be a priest in their fashion. But I think the official, as close as we can get to a quote-unquote official faith of the Nightborne, is probably something based in a Loon, which is interesting because it means that a Loon is now on both the Horde and the Alliance.
Yeah, I actually wonder what's going to happen in the future. If you're playing a questing Nightborne, you're most likely going to be going through the Barrens and probably Ashenvale.
I went through
Ashenvale. That's going to feel killing other Night Elves. You could be killing a distant cousin of yours. Let's just think about that.
Well, they literally are killing cousins of each other.
10,000 years of separation. I don't think there's a lot of fostered.
Well, they still acknowledge that they're distant cousins, like a Blood Elf will acknowledge the Kaldor as
so are Blood Elves and Night Elves.
Could also actually...
That's what I said, the Blood Elves and Night Elves.
Could also actually be kin, because both Night Elves and Nightborne can live...
Yeah, they're both 10,000 years old. So let's think about that.
Tehran knew Elisand.
Well, remember Dathramar too. Remember, Dathramar was the one who started it all for the High Elves. He traveled across Kaldor.
Base Daddy. Base Daddy.
And so he was probably the closest to the whole Night Elf thing, because he was the one who took all the other Highborn and left.
I just realized as an aside, I just realized I'm so bad about consolidating our call group. Qualia, I'm gonna have to get you back in that group that you just left, because it's actually called Boncast Call Group.
Oh, well, yeah, I'll get in later.
I'll add you later. It's not a big deal. But so okay, I have to walk back. Yes, Nightborne priests make sense, even though they've not been demonstrated as a priestly class. There's really no reason to suspect they couldn't be now. And it just adds even more complexity, because like we already know with the Pandaren, and they have the whole thing is, oh, you're killing somebody you might know just because you have a different idea. Blizzard's apparently happy sort of hand waving that away.
And remember, Blizzard will sometimes help fill in some of the lore aspects from role players themselves. So
right, that's why I was saying it's not counterproductive to speculate on things that haven't happened or where there's gas, because even if we are just kind of theory crafting, it can spread idea worms out.
That's fair.
Well, another avenue to explore as well.
Me.
Could just be that they're just practitioners of holy magic. The light can be a faith, but it is also just magic that's floating out there in the nether.
You're right.
So you could just grab onto it and learn how to use it. They're adepts in magic.
You're right, and I hate that so much.
Dan says how he hates warlocks, or not hates them, but he understands warlocks in the Nightborne Society. The Nightborne Society, though, as itself, you're saying they're free agents. I think, actually, that the Nightborne, as they stand as a culture, are curious by nature about magic, of all forms of magic. So that could also exactly play into what you guys are talking about, with how, to them, it's just another form of magic to conquer or control. And what's the best way to learn how to destroy your enemy? By learning everything about them. So naturally, warlocks play into that.
But because of the way the Burning Legion was an enemy of theirs, and look at all the other groups that have treated the, they've had.
They're not buddies with the demons they enslave either.
No,
right.
I just don't separate.
I don't think there's a major windfall of a bunch of Nightborne who are going to be taking up Warlock arts. I think most of them are going to be like, that don't really want to fuck with that, and it's going to be like those gifted few.
On the shallow surface, yeah, it might look like that, but once you dig into it, there's a lot of complexity, and it gets really interesting.
Yeah, they could be someone who's just a magister that wants to control more magic.
It's possible. I think, and I'll say it like this: I think in Nightborne society there are going to be far more mages than warlocks, because warlocks are going to be a taboo, like they are everywhere else.
That's the thing. The Nightborne don't openly discourage that. I would be kind of, would be really cool? A Nightborne necromancer. That would be fucking awesome.
That would be interesting.
Think about
the aesthetics for that would be really cool.
That would be super cool. He's mastered all forms of magic except necromancy, and now he wants to work on the dead, so he basically becomes like a spirit binder essentially. That would be fucking cool.
Well, I'm going to argue that the only race in World of Warcraft that allows open practice of warlock magic is the Forsaken, but we can get in that another day.
I'd say the orcs let it not open.
They let it slide, a little bit.
They let it slide, but then they execute a bunch of them because they decided they were tired of it.
Well, that was something Garrosh did, and Garrosh was kind of on a bender there, so.
Yeah.
He killed a lot of Hordes.
How can we sell that he's more of a bad guy? Oh, we'll have him kill all the warlocks for no apparent reason.
We can get into that later if it's one of the.
Yeah, we'll get into that. That's a can of worms.
I said nothing when Garrosh killed the warlocks because I wasn't a warlock.
Let's talk about their racial traits, boys and girls.
Oh boy,
they're not that interesting. I think that's why we haven't got into it.
Cantrip is the only one
they could have been better.
Yeah,
like the initial proposed ones.
Well,
wait, what were the initial?
What were the initial proposed ones?
They were going to have a disguise ability. You take on the appearance of someone else.
Wow. Oh, really?
They were going to have, so it was going to be like an illusion or whatever.
That'd be fucking great.
And the other one was going to be basically a flavorful just AoE burst that would knock out people out of stealth.
Why? Yeah, I was about to say, why don't they have?
Yeah, I remember that.
Why don't they?
Oh yeah, I remember that.
That was
going to be the other one.
God,
and you go, an illusion. What are you hiding?
Yeah, right.
It was going to be like a little.
How useful would that have been?
It's not, but it was just for flavor. It would have been interesting.
Stonebreaker would have actually really useful for PvP. I mean, look how many people read at fucking Demon Hunters because of that ability.
More useful than just putting a snare on them. I mean, I know it says damage and snare them, but the damage is going to be negligible.
Arcane Tauren is so much better, though.
Yeah.
Also consider the fact that the fucking Void Elves are getting really awesome.
Oh yeah, no, they have some.
I hated that. I was like, why?
Why the fuck?
They got some really interesting ones.
That'd be super cool.
I'm just gonna say.
So instead of talking about the boring abilities we did, okay, well let's go. What did we actually get with the Nightborne here?
We got ancient history.
Log on and look right now.
Well, I got the page up right here.
Oh yeah.
They got ancient history, which is just everyone has a profession skill.
Archaeology or something.
Inscription skill.
Inscription, okay.
Which is
odd. Profession.
Magical affinity, which increases magical damage dealt, which is good. Makes you wonder why would
spellcaster.
I feel that pigeonholes Nightborne into spellcasting classes.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, mine are Destro, partially based on racials.
It does, and I think that's fair. Some races should be tailored to specific classes. I think it's it's the Nightborne. Obviously, they're more attuned to being a spellcaster class, and so being a hunter or a warrior, it's going to be a little bit rare, and they're going to have it's not an ideal class. But I mean, I'm also a player who, back in the day, nobody would tank seriously if you were not a Tauren. So it's not new to me the idea that certain races are tailored to specific classes. So.
All right. So, what about the interesting abilities?
Cantrips, I guess, interesting. They get a free mailbox, but don't the goblins have that with their hobgoblin?
No, it's a bank.
Get a free bank.
It's a bank. Oh. I actually find that extremely useful because I forget to pick up.
Yeah, I think it's pretty useful.
Especially it's pretty lame comparatively to what the Void Elves are getting.
Yeah, it is.
I don't think the Void Elves are that special, honestly.
Okay.
I mean, in terms of racials.
A free blink, that's extremely useful.
Yeah, that's
actually good.
OP
and their damage ability is basically gives them fucking shadow wings. How fucking cool is that?
That's cool, but the Spatial Rift, it works just like Sylvanus' ability in Heroes of the Storm, and it's not that good. It can be really
It's
because
fucking amazing. Are you kidding me?
In raiding, that's extremely useful. That's a lot of mobility.
Oh, in raiding, sure. But
yeah, in raiding, that's extremely powerful.
Hell, even just getting to and from the bank to the mailbox. Getting to the auction house. I mean, that's seconds.
We had a Void Elf Rogue carry the flag, and they could do it with the flag on, and that was bullshit because they literally were across the battle. They were halfway across the goddamn battlefield before anyone could even realize what was going on. It was like, fuck. So yeah,
it's patched.
It's patched.
Arcane Pulse enchants an area with arcane energy, damaging and snaring nearby enemies. That snaring is
okay. So that's basically. I mean, you still get the AOE. You can dispel stealth with it. It's just not the silly version of it. Just made it more useful, I guess.
I mean, AoE abilities can't knock people out of stealth nowadays. Like, I can't Thunderclap and knock a rogue out of stealth. If this damage can knock people out of stealth, then okay, there's something there. But if it not, it's just,
I mean,
shit.
I thought the de-stealth area was really cool, honestly. So
I thought so too. And then their other one is arcane resistance, so just take less arcane damage, which makes sense. All of them make sense, except for they all make sense, but could be cooler. A lot of them.
Yeah. Like, that's it. Just because it makes sense doesn't mean it's like not like it's.
We would have liked the more flavorful ones.
Like what?
That they initially.
Because those Nightborne limericks were the best. Let me see if I can.
Right, they became memes in themselves.
Yeah, they did. No, they did. I think at BlizzCon, they're all dressed up as a Nightborne, and the first thing the announcer said, "What are you hiding?" It's like, oh my god.
Well, look at that 404 page, like.
Yeah.
I'm looking for some limericks. I'm going to try and do in my memory.
Fucking, what's even the High Mountain Tauren? What's is it? Gather faster.
Roses are red. Moonflowers are right. Wait, hold on. Moonflowers are white. Illusion. Something's not quite right.
What? Oh, hold on. What about the Lightborn, Lightforged? What do you guys think about those racials?
Well, let's before we get into them, I have thoughts.
Allah Akbar!
Whoa, Dayon has thoughts. What the fuck? Dayon has an opinion about something?
Doesn't he have an opinion about something?
Anywho, so okay, now that we've gone over the racials, let's look at their scenario. Let's look at their opening scenario, and what we're gonna do here. We're going to watch the opening scenario on that watch together, so direct your attention back to the link that I've been providing you. And we're going...
You can't tell me what to do.
Oh, you don't have to watch it if you don't want to, bruh.
But I want to watch it.
It's pretty dope, though. I like it so much. We're actually
he wants to watch it, but just not because you want him to watch it.
Not because he told me.
That's fine.
Exactly.
Okay, so I'm going to have it on full screen. Whoever wants to... Does anyone need the link who doesn't already have it?
No.
Okay. All right, Goremash, I'm gonna have you hit and pause it. Anyone who wants to pause the video and comment on something,
just yell at me.
Just hit pause, and Goremash will pause. Okay, Gore, you ready?
Mm-hmm.
All right, so we're
leadership in the war
against the Legion
has left our ranks depleted.
And loading.
It's loading. It's playing for me.
It's buffering for me.
Oh, okay.
Buffering. Yeah.
It's playing for me.
You guys just need better internet, shitlords. It's really exciting so far. It's just the human paladin on their horse, just sort of sitting. Okay, now they're entering.
Is this noble?
Nah, it's Wowhead. I think it's Qualia.
I summoned you here.
Should have been noble.
Fuck no.
Because our enemies are gathering.
What do you got against noble?
Don't like him.
The Alliance is
I love Noble.
I do not.
He's got a sexy accent.
Okay, hold on. Pause it real quick, please.
I don't know if I can.
I'll pause it.
Thank you, Qualia. One thing that kills me about the scenario is seeing Sylvanus act like a diplomat and talk about forming the Horde and taking oaths of leadership. Now, I know that Vol'jin is often said not to have done anything. This is literally all he would have had to do, and people would have been satisfied with his role as a war chief. Just bring in new races.
But he watched us build that garrison.
I know.
And then visited
Good
us
job,
once
Commander.
to give us a quest.
He gave us a medal and said, "Good job."
Here's a medal, Commander. And then he died.
I love Sylvanas. I do not love War Chief Sylvanas. Go ahead and hit play, please.
I'm just gonna have to watch this on the screen share because it's not loading in for me.
Okay. Thank you for hit play.
We need fresh blood added to the ranks of the Horde.
Fresh blood.
What say you?
War Chief.
Bane is. I love the way Bane sounds.
Burn.
Alongside us in our campaign against the
I'm pretty sure that's the voice actor who does Tyrael.
Give the city back to you, the people.
No, it's the guy who does Garen in League of Legends.
Is it really? That's pretty dope.
Yeah.
That's dope as shit. I love his Horde tattoos for.
chance to bring them to our side.
Makes me wish we could have tattoos like that.
Yeah, right.
They would be a
We will soon as orcs. Yeah, boy.
Only if you're Warsong.
Ain't too many you want. Although Leodrin, I love Leodrin. I like that she's actually got killed. Lar.
Liberate Suramar from the Legion. The Regent Lord and I agree that our kingdoms have much in common. We believe the Nightborne would make valuable allies.
So what are we watching for here?
Just a sort of.
Suramar holds vast
I don't know.
arcane resource.
Wow.
The way, oh, okay. There's a specific
You abandoned
scene.
that real fast.
There's a specific scene that I think is dope, but I figure at this point we've been recording for about two and a half hours now. There's no way we're gonna get Lightforged in tonight before Kysderal has to go. So we might as well finish it off while watching this for the next 15 minutes and calling it.
I mean, I would also like to cook dinner too, so.
Yeah, I have things that I have to do.
15 minutes, guys. 15 minutes.
But 15 minutes means it's gonna be 8 o'clock and it's gonna be really late to eat.
Okay, let's
go to.
All right, let's move forward.
We covered a lot of ground tonight. I don't think that there's a lot to cover.
There are some specific things I think is worth mentioning here.
All right, then go. Rapid fire. Let's do it. Lightning round, Dayon.
Let's go. All right, let's watch everything after they get to Silver Moon City. How about that?
Is it because
Lightning
Silver Moon
round.
City.
Yes. The Silver Moon Sea scenes are worth watching.
Yeah. I kind of just felt like an awkward family reunion, honestly.
It really is.
Kind of like that Horde dinner. I like that.
Actually, no. I thought that Horde dinner was pretty fucking awesome.
No, I liked it too.
cool.
I say it was like an awkward family dinner, but I liked it.
So Lorthamar is being all cordial to Illyria, saying, "I see no reason why you can't come along, Illyria."
First Arcanist Thalysra,
And then here comes the Nightborne.
to Silver Moon.
Here's an idea. Is Lothamar technically like the second most powerful Horde leader next to Sylvanas now because he's close, or no?
Don't know.
Is he a real leader?
He is a real leader. Fuck you.
What, is Ladrian
I don't know. He's not
leader?
He's not Kel'Thas. I don't know.
Kael'thas.
So let's
God,
see.
get your
Kel'Thas. He's not Kel'Thas.
Thorgrim told me of your courage.
He has some sweet statues that are still up.
Yeah, for some reason.
That's Lorthamar's fault.
Do not want to intrude upon
They look good.
Perhaps I should return another time.
So Illyria. Here's Lorthamar putting her on the fucking spot.
As you wish. I come bearing an offer from High King.
So, what do you think during the Silver Moon revamp that'll never happen? Will they tear down the old Kel'Thas statues and put up Lorthamar statues?
They won't. Actually, I don't think
After this scene, they absolutely should.
Right?
Here, someone pause it. Someone
It doesn't seem like but maybe.
Someone pause it real quick.
He is the closest thing they have to a hero. I mean, next to Ladrian.
The reason why
Leodrin.
I wanted to point out this scenario is for how the way Lorthamar treats Illyria, because all these elves in one fucking place and how all the power dynamics just shift about. You know, Lorthamar plays coy and is all like, "Oh yeah, Illyria, a hero from our past," and Illyria's like, "I think I should talk to you in private." He's like, nonsense. Whatever you have to say can be said in front of our guests. And she's like, "Oh, okay. Well, then I come on behalf of Prince Ren." And Lorthamar just shuts her the fuck down. He should get a statue just for that. What was he said? What was he said? He's like, "I knew you were here for your boy King. Check it out."
It's like, I thought your love for Silver Moon is what brought you for your visit, but instead you're here because of your boy King.
I had hoped your visit would
hoped.
for Silver Moon.
Oh boy. Shit. Fucking savage.
Boy King. How disappointing.
Look at all those badass.
I'm Lothar. Suck dick, Illyria.
I just want to point out that Lorthamar's voice actor is the same voice actor as the character Gaius from Fire Emblem, who's absolutely obsessed with candy.
The irony, though, is that this whole scenario seems to be more focused on Blood Elves and Void Elves than the Nightborne.
Yeah, I know.
They move along for the ride.
Yeah, they literally were just like, okay.
Like, everyone knows what a Nightborne is. Here's what Void Elves are, because no one understands what the fuck that is.
Just imagine being that player character, that champion, just walking with them. It's kind of like,
It's like, oh my god, this isn't what I wanted to do.
Go ahead and pause. Go ahead and pause real quick.
That's an actually interesting kind of thing. Is that like we are okay with the Nightborne because we have context for what they are. Imagine if they had been brought up the same way that the Void Elves have been brought up.
Oh my
god!
Hey,
these exist now.
We
wouldn't have nearly the same opinion of them.
No, but they still don't seem like edgelords.
What?
Okay,
I don't think the issue with them is the fact that they're edgelords.
Edgelord isn't an issue. We have plenty of edgy characters in WoW.
Okay.
We have literal death knights, knights of the death,
and demon hunters.
We have hunters of the demons.
Okay,
like
that's not what I see.
Isn't the issue here?
Okay, but that's not what I see people complain about most. What I see people complain about most is their atrocious lore.
Utter lack of lore, and the fact that in order to get more lore, they need to borrow other races' unlock scenarios for screen time.
That's okay. We had plenty to spare. That's all.
Yeah.
If I wanted to see the Nightborn, if I wanted to see the fucking Void Elf cinematic, I would have gone and played fucking Alliance.
The Nightborne are so fleshed out, they can give almost the entire real estate of their own unlock scenario to Illyria's fucking drama. That's how well fleshed out they are.
The Void, they only consume.
That was my shit, don't you dare!
My God.
I know, I'm stealing it. I'm bringing it back.
Hell yeah. Oh, Goremash, Oasna, I had this great undressing of the Void Elves. I'll tell you about it
I
later.
bet you did, you fucking nerd.
Tell us later, yeah. Let's get on with this show.
Yeah.
I want dinner.
Oh yeah, I forgot the other his quote, by the way, from a previous episode, I think. That's probably the Void Elf episode.
Kill the frog?
No, I was talking about the fucking... No, not the Kill the Frog, the Void Elves only consuming or whatever.
Oh, it's based off of a post that I made. Maybe I think it was... I don't know what episode it was, but it was after the Void Elf episode, but it's a particularly incensed post that I made on the forums.
Lol. Every time I talk to a Void Elf too, they always get like, well, they look cool. I'm like, that's it.
That's what I get all the time too. It's like, I've had to make a very, very soul-crushing realization is that players will forgive absolute aberrant story if
we shit on them for 3 hours already. We don't need to get back into it.
Yeah, I know.
Let's assume we can make several episodes on how much we didn't like how they made it Void Elves.
I can justify bringing up the Void Elves by saying that I'm bringing them up to show how much better the Nightborne are. There, we brought it back.
All right.
Anywho, there's really not much here. Let me just go to the part where Lorthamar slaps Illyria again.
What is happening?
Brick and his radicals.
What the fuck? I still
on behalf of the Nightborne.
Your aid was invaluable, Felicity.
Yeah, pretty much. Okay, you know what? Fuck it. Pause.
She's like, well, that was fucked up. I'm joining these guys.
Illyria's like, no, I will not be
just shitting everything
up.
I liked the fact that Thalissa was like, he was like, I'm sorry you had to see that. That probably makes your opinion of us different. And Thalissa was like, fucking no, you've sold this for me.
No.
You guys are pretty
Literally, we didn't have to work hard to recruit the Nightborne.
No.
We just had to fuck it up a lot less than the Alliance did.
I feel so sorry for our Alliance player in here.
Well, I don't know, Kysderal, what do you think? Does that sound about right to you?
Not really.
Oh, shit. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Now I feel guilty. Like we were just dogpiling on the Alliance.
Well, we're Horde
Oh, that's fine. You guys can circle jerk all you want.
Oh, shit. Them's fucking fighting word.
Savage.
That's a Horde bias chat here, so take it with a grain of salt.
Well, that said, Kysderal, I do definitely want to get back into the Lightforged and give it the very, very in-depth discussion it deserved. And I think this recording of the Nightborne was a lot more productive and fun than the first time. We were laughing our asses off. So I can only imagine that our I can only imagine that our next cast at the Lightforged is going to be better. So here's what I'm proposing. So for the audience, we're going to go ahead and call this discussion closed. We're going to work on a Lightforged episode very soon. Maybe tomorrow, maybe Wednesday. Very soon though.
I'm free. I'm free whenever, so let me know.
Okay, guys, so we're going to go ahead and put a fork in this one and call it done and roast it over the fire so we can eat it and digest on everything that we have discussed. I'm not ever going to say that again. Oh,
Yeah,
before...
that was good. And then we'll put it in our mouths, and then we'll chew it, and then
Never
we'll
mind.
It.
We will
and
masticate.
we'll fucking suck on it, roll our tongue around in it,
Listen,
think about it for a while.
We'll masticate it.
I'm still trying to figure out how to sell the experience of sitting at a campfire with us. It's a work in progress, guys. Anyway,
the sound of shotgunning
had
beer
no
cans.
idea it was a work in progress.
all right. So, before we scatter to the winds, I want to thank everyone for coming out here and spending the last 3 hours with us. And if you guys want to come back soon for the Lightforged discussion, I will give an invite. I'll let you know when we're having it and all that good stuff. So before we scatter to the winds, I like to go give everyone a chance to sort of plug any social media that they're on. Tumblrs, blogs, Patreon projects, anything you guys have that you want to share, Twitter handles, YouTube stuff, anything you create, you want to get more eyeballs on, you got something to share, go for it, man. Qualia, start with you. You know how this little dance goes. Where can we find you?
You can find me at Zombie Qualia on Tumblr or Twitter. Not safe for work links, so view at your own discretion.
Very, very, very much so not safe for work, I would say. Lithiania, do you have any platforms you would like us to follow you on? Do you? I know you do art. Do you stream it anywhere you'd like to get some attention to?
I do have some streaming that I do on Picarto, or however the fuck you pronounce it. It's A Comics. It's AY and then Comics. And then that would be the same for the Patreon. Or if you're more interested in a group effort that I'm doing with a friend that actually have work out to visibly see, you can go to Angry Kitten Juice on Facebook, Twitter, don't laugh. Facebook, Twitter, Patreon, and Instagram.
Perfect. Goremash.
Legit name.
How about you, Goremash? Can we follow you anywhere? Do you want these motherfuckers to know where you live and know where you play games?
Subscribe to fucking Ghost in the Eyes on YouTube. Don't subscribe to this shit.
Hey, fuck you.
That's pretty much it.
How about you, Oasna? Are you too elusive to be nailed down, or do you have some sort of social media platform you would like to share?
Fuck you.
Fuck you. That's all you had to say? I like it. Fair enough. Well, Kysderal, is there anything you'd like to share our guests from the Alliance? Maybe the Alliance is doing something our viewers wouldn't otherwise know about.
Probably. I don't know. Who cares about those wine babies? Oh wait, no, those are the Nightborne.
Nightborne. That's literally them.
Kysderal brings the banter. I think Kysderal is going to come to a lot more podcasts, you guys.
Yeah.
Just for the sake of us not sucking our Horde dicks the whole time.
Yes, we need more Draenei. Oh, never mind.
You can find me on
maybe some more Void Elves.
Cool.
Sorry, say again.
I'm Crocool on Tumblr, spelled exactly like it is in game.
Oh, interesting.
Cool.
Wait, hold on. Do you play Crocool?
Yes, I do actually.
Oh, that's super cool.
I'm holding out hope in battle that we get them as players.
It's gonna happen. It's gonna happen. You watch.
I mean, with everything that's coming out, it's gonna happen.
I mean, it'd be nice, but there's not even like
I don't get too excited.
The female models, I figured someone would bring that up.
Yep.
I haven't made it yet, guys, so you have to wait a little bit before I make one. That's been my job, is to fill in the female characters.
He did make a female ogre.
There's been a lot of concept art online that I really like, but the two arguments against Broken are basically no female models, and we already have Lightforged Draenei, so that'd be 2 Draenei types in the Alliance already.
We're gonna
get fair enough. We got so many elves. I think it's okay to have a few more Draenei.
Yeah,
we're gonna get the Wildhammer dwarves eventually, so moot point. Anywho, as for me, I've been your host Dayon, gathering these chuckle fucks for this discussion. A very spirited, very entertaining discussion. I had fun. I hope you guys all had fun. And if you want to find,
because I'm here.
Yeah, I'd say that's a contributing factor. You motherfuck. Anywho. If you guys want to see what I'm up to, I do illustration, 3D work, animation, a little bit of everything. You can find me WordPress at ml90.wordpress.com. You can find me at Tumblr at ml90.tumblr.com. I do have a Patreon, not associated at all with the Boncast. It is only for my own work, so I am working on taking commissions. When I open commissions up, I've got a bit of a backlog going, but if I ever open commissions up to the public again, I'll let you guys know here. In the meantime, if you want to support the Boncast, here's how you can do it. Like the video, subscribe, hit that bell notification, leave a comment down below about who your favorite Nightborne character is, what class you're going to play, if you're going to play one at all, and what you'd like us to get into for the Lightforged Draenei discussion, if we aren't just recording it within the next 24 hours, and maybe we'll surprise you. Anyway, this has been the Boncast. This is a part 2, maybe 3, it depends on whether or not I want to split the first part up into the Allied race general discussion and then the High Mountain discussion. So this is either going to be part 2 or part 3. We'll see. Part 3 or 4 coming up with the Lightforged Draenei. And then after that, we're going to have the episode where we talk about the Zandalari Trolls and the Dark Iron, featuring a friend of mine to talk about the Dark Iron. And if you know somebody who is particularly close and enthusiastic about playing Trolls who would like to discuss the Zandalari Trolls with us, drop a comment. Drop a comment. What? You guys?
My name is Dax Dayon.
If you'd like to come on, be our Zandalari Troll guest, go ahead and send us an email at theboncast@gmail.com. Theboncast@gmail.com. You guys know how email works. And,
no, I don't.
I don't.
Or you just leave a comment or something.
What is email?
It'd be easy to sift through.
It's 2018. Thousands of social media ways to get a hold of us. I'm sure you'll figure it out. We've also got a Twitter. Links in the description below. And with that, I'm calling it a close and dousing this flame. So I hope you guys all have a good rest of your night. Take care. Safe travels.
Had to end it on one more pun, didn't you?
Yes, I did.
Just gonna
I can't see.
On the fire.
God damn it.
Dayon, don't use gas fuel. Oh shit.
Yep.